Hello everyone. Welcome to a journey through time, where royal drama and depravity reign supreme. From the glittering palaces of ancient Rome to the dark fortresses of medieval Europe, from the dazzling capital of Versailles to the golden temples of East Asia, we'll meet the most debauched rulers in all of history. Forget sparkling thrones, they brought lust, intrigue, and scandals that would make even Hollywood blush. These stories, written down by ancient historians and embroidered by palace whispers, are full of drama, with just a sprinkle of gossip. Ready to dive in? If you're obsessed with dramatic journeys through history like we are, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. And don't forget to comment. Tell us where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. It's always magical to see people from all over the world boarding this time travel ship together. Now, dim the lights. Turn on the fan for that soft white noise. Lie back in your cozy bed. Let your body relax. Think about the most unforgettable moment in your life, and let the gentle sound wrap around you. Together, we'll ride the waves of time, ready for a night of drama and secrets. Let's step into the golden glow of ancient Rome, where Caligula turned every banquet into a scandal that shook the empire. Caligula, the story of an emperor who turned Rome into a stage of desire, where every pleasure was proof of absolute power. Imagine standing in ancient Rome. Torchlight flickers against cold marble columns. The scent of sweet wine mingles with incense smoke. Silk rustles softly as nobles glide past, the hems of their robes brushing the stone floor with a sound as smooth as wind. There's no cool air conditioning like you have today, only the stifling heat of torchlight. There's no right to say no, only the emperor's will, demanding obedience. It's the year 37 CE, the time of Caligula, nicknamed Little Boots from the tiny soldier's shoes he wore as a child, marching beside his father, General Germanicus. His palace was the center of power, where golden-threaded tapestries from the east hid the darkest secrets of the court. Rumors about Caligula spread like Instagram posts, but with drama that no village gossip could match. Attending his court was like getting an invite on TikTok, except there was no decline button. Caligula, born Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, became emperor in 37 CE. The people welcomed him as a savior after the harsh rule of Tiberius. Son of Germanicus, Rome's beloved war hero, he earned the nickname Little Boots from his childhood in the army camp. Dressed in miniature armor, adored by soldiers. He handed out money, freed prisoners, and held grand celebrations. Chariots covered in flowers parading down stone-paved roads, while Rome echoed with cheers. But behind that charm was a childhood scarred by palace plots and the constant fear of poison. There was no food safety back then, just the dread that a single meal could be your last. You stand in the palace hall, scroll in hand, the scent of ink rising faintly. Wine glasses clink in the distance. Cold stone seeps through your sandals. The footsteps of servants echo, like a heartbeat in the quiet air. Your own heart races as you hear one whisper, "He is Rome's hope, but for how long?" Caligula's festivals were like village fairs streamed live on Netflix, except you couldn't skip the drama. 6 months after taking the throne, Caligula fell gravely ill. When he recovered, he was no longer the same man. He declared himself the living form of Jupiter and Venus. He ordered giant golden statues placed in temples and forced citizens to kneel before him as if he were divine. Stories say he adored his horse, Incitatus, dressed it in purple robes studded with pearls, let it live in a golden stable, perhaps as mockery toward the Senate. There was no freedom of speech, only the fear of execution for refusing to kneel. Imagine Incitatus stepping into the Senate chamber, its purple cloak shimmering in torchlight, hooves clicking against stone like a slow, deliberate drumbeat, a luxury brand livestream no Roman could look away from. Temples, built with stone shipped from Greece, became monuments to his madness. You stand pressed against the corner of a palace corridor. Torchlight dances on the wall. The air is thick with myrrh. Whispers of senators float through the shadows, mixed with the soft swish of their robes. Your heart pounds as you hear them speak of Caligula's newest decree, demanding strange, sacred rituals. Turning himself into a god was like posting a selfie on Instagram, but forcing the entire empire to hit like. After his illness, Caligula turned the palace into a den of debauchery, forcing noblewomen to attend what he called sacred rituals. to serve the empire. In truth, they were orgies, events soaked in lust, where the wives and daughters of senators were dragged in, then taxed afterward as part of a fiscal reform. Whispers of an incestuous bond with his sister Drusilla, whom he worshipped as a living goddess and mourned like an empress when she died, sent shivers through Rome. There was no privacy like you have today, only golden curtains to veil the shame of noble families. You're standing in a lavish room, candlelight dances on marble floors, perfume mixes with wine. Silk whispers as dancers pass by, their laughter soft like wind through thin veils. Your heart sinks as a Roman noble leans in to whisper that his wife has been summoned to the emperor's private chamber. Attending Caligula's feasts? Like getting a WhatsApp message, if that message came with the scandal of a village-wide tabloid party. Caligula built a fleet of floating palaces. His pleasure ships, lined with silk beds, marble baths, and stages for seductive performances. There, he hosted week-long orgies. He declared himself the god of sex, demanding noble girls offer themselves like temple sacrifices, while male slaves and actors were forced into obscene performances. One story says he chose Empress Caesonia after one of these orgies, based on her skills in front of the entire court. There were no legal protections like you have today, only the emperor's decree deciding your fate. You're standing on the ship's deck. Waves lap gently against the hull, steady as the sea's breath. Salt air mingles with incense smoke. Torchlight flickers across dancers' jewelry. Your heart races as Caligula's cold laughter rings out, as if the whole world were his stage. An orgy on a ship? Like a riverside YouTube live stream, but no one dares click away. Caligula's depravity blurred into cruelty. He executed people for petty reasons, like wearing bright clothes or looking at him the wrong way. When prisoners ran out, he threw spectators into the lion cages. He mocked senators by describing their wives' behavior at his orgies in explicit detail. He wasted public funds on absurd projects, like declaring war on the sea, then ordering soldiers to collect seashells as spoils of war. The treasury ran dry. In 41 CE, the Praetorian Guard assassinated him in a palace corridor, ending a reign of horror. There was no digital news like you have now, only rumors crawling slowly across stone-paved roads. You're standing in the palace gardens. The scent of roses is overpowered by blood. Steel glints under torchlight. Shouts echo in the night, blended with the wind in the trees, whispering like Rome itself. Your heart pounds as word spreads. Caligula has fallen. His reign? Like a radio drama, more dramatic than any live stream on X. You leave the palace. Rome's noise fades into the night. Torchlight dims. A cool breeze slips through your silk cloak, carrying whispers like rustling leaves. Caligula's reign left behind a legacy of excess, where lust became a weapon and power turned men into monsters. Those gilded statues, once worshipped by the crowds, are now just echoes of a chaotic Rome. His legacy? Like a viral trend on social media, burning bright, fading fast, leaving behind bitter lessons about the vanity of power. Tonight, as you sit in your peaceful room with the freedom to choose and the safety of the modern world, take a quiet moment of gratitude for not living in Caligula's palace, where every pleasure was proof of power and every indulgence a curse in disguise. Leave behind the blinding sun of Rome. Drift through the mists of England, where Edward II weaves a love drama that shakes the Anglo-Saxon throne. Edward II, the tale of a king who turned the English court into a stage of passion and revenge, where desire drowned the very throne. Imagine standing in the great hall of Carnarvon Castle. Firelight dances on cold stone walls. The scent of beeswax from candles mingles with the aroma of malted ale. Silks rustle as nobles glide past. No electric light, only flames that flicker. No clean water, only freezing well water. This is the year 1307. Edward II, a young king, has just taken the throne after the death of his father, Edward I, the warlord who conquered Wales. His oak-carved throne sits at the center of power, but behind golden-threaded velvet curtains lie secrets of scandal. Rumors of Edward and his close companion, Piers Gaveston, spread like TikToks gone viral, but juicier than market gossip. To attend his court, it's like getting an Instagram invite without the decline button. Edward II was born in 1284 at Caernarfon. He became king at 23, carrying the legacy of a father who ruled by sword, but Edward ruled by affection. He granted rare privileges to Piers Gaveston, a Gascon noble with whom he shared what the court called brotherhood, companionship, and cherished love. Gaveston was made Earl of Cornwall, a title usually reserved for royalty. The barons were outraged. Lavish banquets followed, wine spilling across oak tables where Edward's affections for Gaveston played out in public, fracturing the court. No soft bed or warm duvet like yours tonight. Only cold straw mats and wind creeping through stone walls. You stand in a corner of the hall, hands clutching a scroll, ink scent in the air, a harp playing in the distance, stone floor numbing your feet. Your heart races as a baron whispers, Gaveston is the king's second queen. Edward's love life, like a village fair streamed on Netflix, but the whole kingdom is waiting for the scandal to explode. In 1312, the barons rose up. They captured Gaveston and executed him. Edward was left grieving and furious. He shifted his affections to Hugh Despenser, a young and ambitious noble, rumored to be the king's new lover. Despenser ruled the court with ruthless manipulation. Secret banquets were held, where hand-picked young men served under candlelight. No modern medicine, only bitter herbs and whispered prayers when illness struck. Edward took revenge on those who defied Gaveston. He seized lands, sent nobles into exile, or had them executed. Fear gripped the court. You stand in the castle's shadowy corridor, firelight flickering, smoke and brocade mingling in the air. Whispers float down the hall. Your heart sinks as you hear of Thomas of Lancaster, the king's cousin, beheaded in 1322. Edward's revenge? Like posting a Facebook status to shame an enemy, but with a public execution in the town square. Under Despenser's influence, Edward turned part of the palace into a house of companions. Young men were selected for their appearance, serving in twisted entertainments. No central heating, only weak fires and stone-cold air. Picture them entering, silken cloaks glimmering like Instagram filters. Their footsteps soft on the stone floor, like the beat of a smug vlog. Edward's eyes gleam with pride. Stories say he punished traitors with red-hot tongues or leather whips, at feasts filled with screams. Despenser was accused of assaulting barons' wives, even the queen's sister, yet Edward protected him all the same. Tapestries hung high hid secret rooms, where wine and beeswax blurred into shadows. You stand in a narrow hallway, a candle flickers behind a door, laughter, wild and cruel, echoes from the feast within. Your heart pounds as a servant whispers about the king's outrageous games. Edward's lust, like throwing a party on Snapchat, but with the cruelty of a public trial in the village square. Queen Isabella, abandoned and humiliated by Edward in court, became the she-wolf of France. Stripped of power, watched closely by Despenser, she fled to France, allied with her lover Roger Mortimer, and led an invasion of England in 1326. Edward was captured, deposed, and forced to abdicate in favor of his son, Edward III. Imprisoned in Berkeley Castle, he was killed in 1327, with a chilling tale that a red-hot iron rod was shoved into his rectum. A symbolic revenge for his homosexual life. No doctors or hospitals like you have today. Only helpless healers and a cruel, lonely death. You stand in the castle garden. The smell of wet grass is drowned by the stench of blood. Torchlight gleams off armored guards. Shouts echo in the cold night, metal hissing as the iron is heated, mixing with the wind that whips through stone walls. Your heart races as news spreads. The king has fallen. Isabella's betrayal? Like a YouTube live stream of a public coup, but with the tone of a handwritten letter soaked in fury. Edward II is often seen as one of England's worst kings, weak, driven by desire, and turning the court into a theater of vengeance. But modern historians look at him with empathy, a man out of his time, trapped between his identity and his crown. Christopher Marlowe's play Edward II turned his tragedy into a masterpiece, capturing the conflict between love and duty. No clean water, no soft lighting like your room tonight, only murky wells and cold, endless dark. You stand again in the now empty hall. The hearth dims, beeswax lingers in the air, the wind whispers through the stone windows. Your heart quiets as you think of Edward's legacy. His reign? Like a radio story late at night, more dramatic than any post on X. You leave the castle. The medieval wind melts into the dark. Torchlight fades. A cold breeze brushes your silk cloak. Edward II's reign was a story where desire became a weapon and power turned into revenge. In a world without electric lights, without clean water, without the safety you have now. The woven tapestries, once witnesses to nights of lust, are now just memories of a kingdom torn apart. Tonight, as you lie in a warm bed under soft light with peace and clean water beside you, take a quiet moment to be thankful you weren't born into the court of Edward, where love sat on the throne. But revenge came with a price. Leaving behind the misty meadows of England, we fly across to the capital of Chang'an, where Wu Zetian wove plots and lovers under the moonlight. Wu Zetian, the story of a woman who turned the imperial palace into a stage of lust and power, where scandals wrote the history of shame, making you appreciate the safety and light of tonight. Imagine yourself standing in the palace of Chang'an. The dim candlelight glows on red lacquered pillars. The scent of incense mixes with old silk. You hear the soft rustle of robes as officials pass by. No electric lights, only fragile flames. No clean water, only cloudy well water. It is the year 655, Tang Dynasty. Wu Zetian, once a low-ranking concubine, is now stepping into a chess game of power and desire. Silken screens embroidered with dragons and phoenixes hide shameful secrets, from palace chambers to Buddhist temples, from male favorites to whispered sins. Rumors about her spread like TikTok posts, but sharper than any market gossip. To serve in her court was like accepting a DM on Instagram, with no escape button. Wu Zhao was born in 624 in Jingzhou, into a noble family of the Wu clan. At age 14, she entered Emperor Taizong's harem as a Kiren, a very low rank. Without royal favor, she lived quietly on cold bamboo mats, no soft mattress like yours tonight, just the chill seeping through stone. When Taizong died, she was forced to shave her head and sent to Ganye Temple, where she lived a harsh life. No makeup, no modern medicine, only bitter herbs and silent prayers. But Emperor Gaozong, Taizong's son, had admired her since young. He broke all rules to bring her back into the palace. Despite all moral codes, legends say she seduced both father and son, earning the title Shameless Woman Who Lay with Them Both. To become empress, she was accused of strangling her newborn daughter and blaming Empress Wang, leading to Wang's deposition in 655. You are now standing in Taiji Hall, scroll of bamboo in hand, ink faint in the air, bronze bells ringing softly, cold stones seeping through your shoes. Your heart races as you hear a maid whisper, "She turned humiliation into a weapon." Her rise? Like a countryside drama streaming on Netflix, more intense than any group chat on WhatsApp. Once crowned empress, Wu Zetian controlled Gaozong, a sickly man who relied on herbal doctors, no hospitals like yours today. She used beauty to manipulate ministers, turning the palace into a tool for politics. Legends say she seduced young monks, like Master Huizi, under the guise of seeking spiritual wisdom, but in truth, for lust. Empress Wang and consort Xiao, after the baby's death, were said to be mutilated, limbs cut off, thrown into wine jars, their screams mixed with burning wine and the heat of a copper censer. Her secret police, the censor guards, led by Lai Junshan, tortured rivals in cold stone chambers, no cozy fireplace like in your home. You hide in the corner of the hall, candlelight flickering on silk screens, overwhelmed by incense. Your heart sinks as you hear whispers of a monk who vanished in the night. Her power? Like posting a public status on Facebook to destroy someone. Bloodier than any village trial. After Gaozong died in 683, Wu Zetian deposed her sons. She forced Li Xian to abdicate in 690. Then crowned herself sacred and divine emperor, founding the Zhou dynasty, the only female emperor in Chinese history. Legends say she built a palace of lust with secret passages and young men selected for pleasure, some castrated for loyalty. She favored the Zhang brothers, Zhang Yiji and Zhang Changzong, male lovers given power. They danced and sang, bare-chested, at parties glowing with red silk. No warm blankets like yours tonight, just rough silk and flickering candles. You stand in the main hall, gold light from the Buddha statue glaring, incense and perfume blending thick in the air. The sound of sutras echo around. Your heart pounds as the Zhang brothers pass by, dressed in blazing red silk like an Instagram filter. Her reign, like a live stream on YouTube broadcasting raw desire, but with the force of a poem carved into stone. In her final years, Wu Zetian relied on the Zhang brothers, not just loyal servants, but lovers. Legends say she summoned young monks like Master Huizi into the palace late at night under the excuse of discussing the Dharma, but in truth, for pleasure. Tales describe her palace of lust with scented baths, red silk beds, and nights of endless indulgence. Music blared to drown out the whispered sins beneath silk sheets. They whispered of incest with young princes or adopted sons. They called her empress tyrant in a mother's crown. No electric fans, no fresh air, only folding fans and the thick, suffocating heat. You stand in a narrow corridor. Candlelight flickers through a crack in the door. The scent of osmanthus and incense clings to your sleeves. The footsteps of a young monk echo like a heartbeat down the stone hall. Your pulse races as you hear an official whisper about forbidden games. Her desire? Like an Instagram stories party, loud and fleeting, but hiding the loneliness of a handwritten letter never read. In 705, under pressure from Tang ministers, Wu Zetian abdicated in favor of Li Xian, ending the Zhou dynasty. She died that same year, at 81 years old. Her tombstone bears no inscription, so history could judge her in silence. Historians praised her for reforming the civil exam system, but Confucian scholars, palace women, Tang nobles, and commoners called her the dragon of lust, who killed her own son, spoiled male lovers, seduced monks, and broke all taboos. They hated her for upending the natural order. In a world without clean water or modern medicine, only cloudy wells and desperate prayers to heaven. You stand in the palace garden. The scent of osmanthus fades in the cold wind. Candlelight dims. The bronze bell chimes softly. Your heart slows as you wonder what legacy she truly left behind. Her reign? Like a story on late-night radio, more dramatic than any viral trend on X. You leave the palace. The wind of Chang'an melts into the night. The candle fades. A cold breeze slips beneath your silk robe. Wu Zetian's dynasty was the tale of a woman who used desire and cruelty to rewrite history. In a world with no electric light, no clean water, no modern medicine. The silk screens, once witness to pleasure and betrayal, are now just memories of a fleeting empire. Tonight, as you lie in a warm bed, under soft light, with clean water and safety by your side, be quietly thankful you never lived in her palace, where desire was the throne but loneliness was the price. Now leave the scent of Chang'an behind and drift across the Persian sands, where Harun al-Rashid tells tales of 1001 nights amid scandals of his own. Harun al-Rashid, the story of a caliph who turned Baghdad into a stage of desire, where every pleasure was a testament to supreme power. Imagine yourself standing inside the palace of Baghdad. Jasmine oil lamps flicker against marble walls. The scent of sandalwood blends with chilled grape wine. Silk rustles as concubines pass by, their robes sweeping the floor with a softness like desert wind. No Wi-Fi, no smartphone like you have today. Only letters, traveling slowly across sand and time. It is the year 786. Harun al-Rashid, a young caliph, takes the throne and transforms the capital into a paradise of wisdom and pleasure. Golden-threaded curtains veil a harem of 4,000. Within, power and passion become legend. Rumors of Harun spread faster than a viral TikTok, but with the weight of a whispered truth from a village marketplace. To serve in his palace was like receiving a DM on Instagram, but without the option to decline. Born in 763 in Ray, Harun was the son of Caliph al-Mahdi and Kaiserin, a Yemeni servant with a sharp mind. She shaped him into a ruler both fearless and fond of poetry. At 14, he led campaigns against Byzantium, earning the title al-Rashid, the rightly guided. But behind the soldier's armor was a soul intoxicated by poetry, astronomy, and midnight delights. Crowned at 23, he turned Baghdad into the shining heart of the Islamic world. Scholars, mathematicians, and astronomers gathered. He founded the House of Wisdom, where Greek, Persian, and Indian works were translated into Arabic, laying the foundation for the Arab Renaissance. No printers, no internet like you have now, only scrolls painstakingly copied by hand under lamplight. You stand in the great hall of the palace, fingers gripping a scroll. The scent of ink drifts upward. The qanun hums gently in the background. The cold floor creeps through your sandals. Your heart beats faster as a scholar whispers, "The king loves books, but he loves pleasure more." Harun's reign? Like a village festival live-streamed on Netflix, but with more twists than any drama at the town market. He exchanged letters with Charlemagne, sending him a white elephant named Abul Abbas and a mechanical clock that chimed, astonishing Europe. But inside his palace, he crafted a world of indulgence. A harem of 4,000 concubines from Persia, India, Egypt, Byzantium, each selected through a pleasure calendar maintained by eunuchs. He called it the earthly Garden of Eden. Persian dancers with smoky eyes, Egyptian musicians plucking qanuns, Byzantine slaves belly dancing like sacred rites. One night, he ordered 1,000 jasmine oil lamps lit to make love to the dancer Zubaida, the only woman who made him break his rule and spend the night with her again. No freedom of choice like the one you enjoy today. Only royal decrees shaping destinies with a signature. You stand behind a silk curtain. Oil lamps glimmer. The scent of jasmine grows thick. The soft swish of silk robes draws near. Your heart grows heavy as a eunuch whispers about the pleasure calendar and its coded names, like the fiery butterfly. Harun's harem, like a viral TikTok challenge, but with the cruelty of a public trial in the village square. The depravity of Harun al-Rashid was on full display during his spring banquets along the banks of the Tigris River. There, 50 slave girls and maidens danced naked beneath silk tents, wine flowed like a stream, and erotic poetry echoed through the air. Each night, he demanded 3 sensual poems to be read aloud. He rewarded the poet whose words left him too aroused to sleep. One poet went too far with obscenity. Harun stripped him naked and had him floated down the river. A living artwork, he called it. He was infatuated with the poetess Walada, defying Islamic law just to hear her carnal verses. It was like tuning into a banned Twitch stream. Forbidden, but impossible to look away. Whispers spread about an impure friendship with his eunuch companion, Jafar Barmaki, who was later executed by Harun himself. A Byzantine slave boy with an angelic voice was kept beside him for 40 nights, stirring outrage among the clergy, like a shocking post on X that sent the whole timeline into meltdown. Harun wielded lust as political power. He gifted concubines to loyal officials, or forced his enemies to witness their own kin serving him. There were no safety nets back then, only the terror of being executed for a single wrong glance. You stand in the palace garden, oil lamps glimmering across the pond, the scent of wine mixed with poppy flowers. A poet recites verses, his voice fluttering through silk curtains like the wind. Your heart races as you hear about the week of debauchery, when Harun forced couples to swap partners. Anyone who cried was exiled forever. His feasts, like a YouTube livestream party, but no one dared to hit exit. Harun's cruelty melted into his lust. He wiped out the entire Barmakid family, including his old friend Jafar. Their bodies were crucified on the palace gates. The sound of hammers echoed like death drums, the smell of dried blood mixing with desert dust, like a public post on X announcing punishment that made Baghdad shiver. A concubine once smiled at a poet. She was whipped with iron rods wrapped in leather. The lash sliced through the air like desert wind. A slave who refused him due to illness had his hand cut off. He hunted down Shia and Khawarij heretics, skinning their corpses and hanging the hides on Baghdad's gates. Others were burned alive in public squares. The smoke choked out the scent of roses from the palace garden. When traveling in disguise, Harun stabbed a man to death for insulting the caliphate, a poor man who dared say the holy book doesn't feed the hungry. In his final years, Harun faced a brutal civil war between his sons, Amin and Al-Mamun. The empire split, like a WhatsApp family group chat exploding with drama that dragged the entire dynasty into bloodshed. He moved the capital to Khorasan to quell the unrest, but he died in 809 in the city of Tus. There was no fair trial, only the caliph's word, and that was law. You stand in the palace hallway, lamplight flickering through the door cracks, the scent of sandalwood mixing with blood in the air. Screams echo from the square. Your pulse quickens as the news spreads. Jafar is dead. Harun's reign? Like a radio drama, but more intense than anything posted on X. You leave the palace. The wind of Baghdad fades into the night. The lamplight dims. A breeze slips under your silk robe, dry desert air rustling like dead leaves. The reign of Harun al-Rashid was a tale of brilliance and depravity, where lust became political weaponry and power turned into a stage for pleasure. The golden-stitched curtains that once witnessed erotic poetry and savage punishment are now just memories of a dazzling divided empire. His legacy? Like a viral trend, spectacular, fleeting, leaving behind lessons on the vanity of power and the cost of desire. To survive Harun's nights of debauchery is to appreciate the modern world, where there's no forced pleasure schedule, and one tap on block is all it takes to escape courtly drama. Tonight, as you sit in your quiet room, with the freedom to say no and the safety of your time, offer a silent thanks that you were not born into Harun's harem, where every pleasure was proof of power, and every power was a curse of loneliness. Leaving behind the burning sands of Persia, we return to radiant Rome, where Elagabalus turned temples into brothels, blinding even the gods with desire. Elagabalus, the story of an emperor who turned Rome into a theater of desire, where every pleasure was a blasphemy against supreme power. Imagine standing in ancient Rome. Torchlight flickers against cold marble columns. The scent of incense blends with spiced wine. Silk whispers as nobles glide by. Robes skim the stone floor like breath on water. There was no freedom to express yourself as you have today. Only the judging stares of the Roman crowd. This is the year 218 AD, the age of Elagabalus, a 14-year-old emperor, priest of the sun god Elagabal, who turned the palace into a brothel and the throne into a stage for lust. Behind golden silk curtains hid shameful secrets. He called himself queen. He called his lover husband. Rumors about Elagabalus spread like a TikTok post, but with more scandal than whispers at a village market. To serve in his court? It was like getting an Instagram invite, without a decline button. Born in Emesa, Syria, his real name was Varius Avitus Bassianus. His grandmother, Julia Mesa, manipulated his rise to power by claiming he was the secret son of Emperor Caracalla. At just 14, he had the army's backing, overthrew Macrinus, and became emperor. As the high priest of the sun god Elagabal, he brought a sacred black stone from Syria to Rome, forcing the people to worship it. He replaced Jupiter, Rome's chief deity, and outraged the nobility. He wore flamboyant robes, jeweled accessories, wigs. He dressed as a priestess, declared himself a woman, and demanded to be called Her Majesty. There was no gender autonomy then, only mockery from the Roman court. You stand in the great hall of the palace, a scroll clenched in your hand. The scent of ink drifts up, a lyre hums softly, cold marble chills your sandals. Your heart races as a noble whispers, "Our emperor is the bride of the gods." The reign of Elagabalus, like a village festival live-streamed on Netflix, but with more chaos than any town square drama. Elagabalus turned the palace into a brothel. He painted his face, wore sheer silks, and stood behind curtains, waiting for clients, from slaves to dignitaries, to serve them personally. He married at least 5 people. Among them was Hierocles, a chariot slave he called husband, and Zodicus, an athlete crowned groom in a lavish wedding. He wept with jealousy when Hierocles ignored him. He even begged to be bought like a slave. He held naked beauty contests, measuring genitalia to select lovers, offering prizes to the most gifted, like a twisted Twitch challenge that set Rome buzzing. He once begged physicians to castrate him or surgically create a vagina, an idea that made even Rome shudder. There was no personal dignity as you know it today, only humiliation from those in power. You stand behind a silk curtain. Torchlight dances on marble floors. Incense clings to the air. Soft moans echo from the reception chamber. Your chest tightens as a guard whispers of the emperor lying legs apart, waiting for guests. Elagabalus's desires, like a viral TikTok trend, but with the shock of a village trial. His debauchery blurred into cruelty. He married the Vestal virgin Aquilia Severa, a sacred priestess sworn to lifelong chastity. Rome was horrified. It was like a scandalous post on X, condemned by all but shared by everyone. He threw orgiastic feasts where naked guests swapped partners, performed rituals before his god statue, and perhaps sacrificed humans afterwards. At one banquet, he dumped tons of rose petals from the ceiling. Guests suffocated to death. He called it romantic. He castrated handsome servants to match him, beheaded critics as love offerings, forced prisoners to wear dresses and play beasts for court amusement. There was no Netflix, no TV, only grotesque games for entertainment. You stand in the palace garden. Torchlight shimmers across a still pond. The scent of roses mixes with blood. Screams rise from the feast, blending with the rustle of silk. Your heart pounds as you hear tales of a deadly shower of roses. Elagabalus's parties? Like a YouTube livestream you can't pause, and no one dares to look away. Elagabalus scorned the Senate, banished or executed generals, and forced the empire to worship the god Elagabal, declaring the Roman gods slaves of his deity. He appeared in public wearing a white bridal gown, called Hierocles his husband, and begged to be whipped, tied up, or humiliated for pleasure. In 222, the fury of nobles, soldiers, and even his grandmother Julia Maesa led to his death. The Praetorian Guard assassinated him and his mother, dragged their bodies through the streets, stripped them bare, and threw them into the Tiber. The sound of his corpse scraping the stone echoed like a curse upon Rome, the muddy river smell smothering any trace of perfume. No modern toilets, no varied cuisine, only the chaos of ancient Rome. You stand in the palace corridor. Steel glints beneath the torchlight. The scent of blood overpowers the perfume. The crowd's shouting echoes like a city's lament. Your heart races as you hear the emperor has fallen. The reign of Elagabalus? Like a dramatic radio story, more shocking than a viral post on X. You leave the palace. Rome's noise fades into the night. Torchlight dims. A cool breeze brushes your silk robe, carrying a hush like rustling leaves. The reign of Elagabalus was the tale of a ruler born out of time, where desire and gender identity turned into weapons against his own throne. The statues of Elagabal, once worshipped, are now memories of a Rome in chaos. His legacy? Like a social media trend, it flared, then vanished, leaving behind lessons on the vanity of power and the cost of blasphemy. After surviving the wild nights of Elagabalus, you might be grateful for the present, where no silk curtain hides shame, and a simple swipe lets you exit a controversial live stream. Tonight, as you sit in a quiet room, with the freedom to be yourself and the safety of the modern world, take a moment to be thankful you don't live in the palace of Elagabalus, where every pleasure was a profanity, and every desire a whispered curse of destruction. Leaving behind Rome's golden light, you now step into the lavish halls of Versailles, where Louis XV hunts young girls amid the scent of perfume and the sound of courtly music. Louis XV, a tale of the king who turned Versailles into a stage of desire, where every pleasure corroded the foundations of absolute power. Imagine yourself inside the Palace of Versailles. Candlelight dances across gilded walls. The scent of rose perfume blends with red wine. Silken gowns rustle as noblewomen glide past. Cuffs brush marble floors like whispers in the dark. There were no child protection laws like you have today, only the silent complicity of the court. It's 1715. Louis XV, great-grandson of the Sun King, ascends the throne at just 5 years old, known as Louis the Beloved. Versailles was dazzling, but beneath the golden mirrors lay darker secrets, where the king's desires became law. Rumors of his life spread faster than a TikTok post, but with more scandal than a village marketplace whisper. To serve in Louis's court, it was like receiving a DM on Instagram, but there was no decline button. Born in 1710, Louis V became king after the deaths of his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Under the regency of Cardinal Philippe d'Orléans, he grew up intelligent, curious about science and hunting, but indifferent to politics. In 1725, he married Marie Leszczyńska, a Polish princess. They had 10 children, but love faded fast. Louis dove into a life of secret, then public, debauchery. He created the Secret du Roi, a covert intelligence network that meddled in European courts, earning him a reputation for double-dealing. Like a secret WhatsApp group, where conspiracies whispered under candlelight took shape. There was no personal freedom like you enjoy today, only shadows and plots moving beneath flickering flames. You're standing in the Hall of Mirrors, gripping a scroll. Ink lingers in the air, harpsichord notes echo. Cold marble seeps through your shoes. Your heart quickens as a courtier whispers, "Our beloved king loves pleasure more than his people." Louis's reign? It was like a village festival live-streamed on Netflix, but with more drama than a town square scandal. His depravity reached its peak in the Parc aux Cerfs, the Deer Park, a secret brothel within Versailles, run by his former mistress, Madame de Pompadour, to keep her influence alive. Dozens of young girls, some only 12 or 13, were lured or bought from poor families. Held in seclusion, bathed in scented water, dressed in sheer lace gowns, then led to the king's chambers each night. One bled too much after her first night and disappeared. Louis once slept with twin sisters from a peasant family, then cast them out with a few coins. He even slept with the daughter of a former mistress. The girl was only 14. There were no modern health protections, only fear of disease and quiet, unspoken deaths. You're standing behind velvet curtains, candlelight glimmers in the mirror. The rose perfume is thick, soft moans echo from the royal chamber. Your chest tightens as you hear a maid whisper about another girl taken away in the night. Parco surfs, like a viral TikTok challenge, but with the cruelty of a village trial. Louis hosted soirées privées, private orgies where girls from the park wore masks and sheer gowns. Passed between nobles like shared wine, it looked like a grim period drama, with overflowing wine and laughter blending into moans. He caught syphilis but continued unprotected, infecting girls who developed rashes or died, buried without dignity. Pregnant girls were forced to abort or give birth elsewhere, their children sent to orphanages, unacknowledged. Louis disguised himself as a commoner, sneaking into Paris inns to sleep with brothel girls. He demanded they be virgins, like an anonymous Twitch livestream, where the king hid his crown to drown in desire. There was no opt-out from social pressure like today, only submission to the throne. You stand in the Versailles garden, candlelight shimmers on the water, the scent of roses and wine mixes in the air. Lace rustles, a quiet sob echoes from Parco serfs. Your heart pounds as you hear of a girl who tried to hang herself and was stopped just in time. Louis parties? Like a YouTube livestream party, but no one dares to hit exit. His apathy toward the people deepened the decay. While peasants starved under taxes and famine, Louis squandered wealth on parties and wars, like the failed 7 Years' War, which cost France Canada and India. He censored Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire, banned the encyclopédie for fear it might shake the regime. In his final years, he retreated into Versailles, died of smallpox in 1774, leaving the throne to Louis XVI, who would later be beheaded in the French Revolution. The people celebrated Louis XIV's death, called him the sinner who died. Cheers rose from Paris like a curse. The stench of smallpox medicine mingled with bonfire smoke. His reigns collapse, like a post on X, dragged through outrage, then forgotten. No food safety, no modern medicine, only Versailles in decay. You walk the palace corridors, candlelight seeps through the door cracks. Blood and medicine overwhelm the rose scent. Distant shouting rolls in from Paris. Your heart races as you hear the king has fallen. Louis' reign? A tale told on late-night radio, more dramatic than any trending post. You leave Versailles. The palace noise fades into the dark. Candlelight dims. A cool breeze lifts your silk robe, carrying the faint rustle of leaves. Louis XV was once beloved, but desire turned his power into rot. The velvet curtains that once hid royal lust and the cries of young girls, now just memories of a doomed dynasty. His legacy? Like a viral trend. Explosive, then gone. A lesson in the cost of luxury and neglect. Survive the dark nights of Louis XIV, and you'll be thankful for the present. A time without Parco serfs, where one click can block the court's drama. Tonight, in your quiet room, with equal rights and modern protection, be grateful you don't live in Louis XV's Versailles, where every pleasure was rot and every desire a curse. Leaving the splendor of Versailles behind, you pass through the snowy forests of Kiev, where Vladimir occurs converted by candlelight, yet kept a harem burning like fire. Vladimir I, the tale of a king who turned Kievan Rus into a theater of desire, where every pleasure was proof of brutal power before he became a saint, bathed in divine light. Imagine yourself standing in ancient Kiev. Torchlight flickers against wooden walls carved with warriors. The scent of burning pine mixes with sweet mead. Silk whispers as handmaidens glide past, their hems brushing the dirt floor like dry leaves in a forest. There is no freedom of movement like you have today, only muddy roads guarded by the king's watchmen. This is the year 980, the age of Vladimir Rus, a pagan king infamous for lust, who made Kievan Rus a labyrinth of desire and violence. Deerskin curtains hid his hundreds of concubines. Women were trophies. Power was law. Rumors of Vladimir spread like winter market gossip, like a viral X post, sharper than the steppe wind. To serve in his court, like being pulled into a fairy tale with no way out. Born as the illegitimate son of Grand Prince Sviatoslav, his mother just a servant, Vladimir grew up in the shadows of Novgorod. When his father died, his brother Yaropolk claimed the throne of Kiev. Vladimir fled, hired Viking mercenaries with gold, returned, and killed Yaropolk, pretending to reconcile, then stabbing him at the negotiating table. Like a public live stream on Twitch, every eye witnessing the cruel betrayal. He seized the throne, crushed his enemies, dismembered rebel leaders, and hung their bodies on wooden stakes by the Dnieper. Tribes, like the Drevlians and Viatics, were slaughtered if they resisted. Villages were torched, people enslaved. There was no right to dignity like you have now, only the axe deciding fate. You stand in the great wooden hall, gripping a scroll of parchment. The scent of pine smoke rises, the gusli's song echoes. Cold earth seeps through your leather shoes. Your heart pounds as a warrior whispers, "Our king is a wolf in a crown." The reign of Vladimir? Like a campfire tale, but more terrifying than any ghost story. Before his conversion, Vladimir was consumed by lust. He had over 800 concubines in Kiev, Belgorod, and Berestovo, from noblewomen to slaves, even the wives of his enemies. He built pleasure towers with hot baths and red silk beds, choosing women at random each night. Mead flowed freely. Music filled the halls, like a live stream party on TikTok, all of Kievan Rus watching, unable to look away. Rogneta, Princess of Polotsk, rejected his marriage proposal because of his low birth. So Vladimir attacked her city, killed her parents before her eyes, forced her to marry him, and made her wear mourning robes at the wedding to humiliate her. He was rumored to sleep with close relatives, to take his cousin's daughter as a concubine, to abduct a nun hiding in the mountains, and turn her into a slave in his pleasure house. Concubines older than 25 were sent back to their villages or given to soldiers as rewards. There were no gender rights like you have today, only submission to the king's desire. You stand behind a deerskin curtain. Torchlight flickers on the bathing pool. The scent of mead masks the scent of wildflowers. Soft moans rise from the pleasure tower, blending with the whistle of the wind. Your heart sinks as a concubine whispers about the girl who was cast out for no longer being beautiful. Vladimir's harem, like a wild ritual told over late-night radio, but crueler than any witch's curse. The brutality of Vladimir blended with desire. He took women by force, killed husbands or relatives to humiliate rivals, and punished those who displeased him. A nun who resisted was dragged into the river. A village girl was assaulted publicly to make an example. He was once called a demon in human form, living like a beast out of control. When envoys from Byzantium arrived, they were stunned. Before them stood a brilliant ruler, obsessed with pleasure. They joked he would choose a religion based on how many wives it allowed. In 988, Vladimir converted to Eastern Orthodoxy, married Princess Anna of Byzantium, and changed overnight, like a viral Instagram campaign. He forced all of Kievan Rus to kneel before this new light, even as many screamed and wept. He destroyed the temple of Perun, burned pagan idols, and baptized the people by force, soldiers pushing them into the river. Their cries mixed with the splash of the Dnieper on muddy banks. Those who resisted were tortured, dragged to the river, or executed in public. He built churches, gave alms to the poor, and lived a pious life until the end. But many suspected he kept his favorite concubines, just under new titles. There was no access to information like you have today, only whispers and the king's decree. You stand by the Dnieper. Firelight dances on the water. The smell of incense and burnt wood lingers. Church bells echo, blending with the cries of the newly baptized. Your heart beats harder as you hear tales of the king's transformation. Vladimir's conversion, like a letter passed from hand to hand, but filled with blood and fire, more than any village rumor. Vladimir died in 1015, leaving behind a mighty Kievan Rus stained with blood and desire. Church bells rang with the wind. The scent of damp soil drowned out the last ember smoke. His bloody legacy, like a controversial post on X, spreading across the steppe before being replaced by hymns of a saint king. The church canonized him as Saint Vladimir, bringer of Christian light to Eastern Europe. But the people still whispered about Volodymyr, who once stole women and killed his own brother. His legacy was a strange curve, from lustful wolf to penitent saint, from pleasure palaces to church domes. There was no hot water or electricity like you have today, only the harshness of the medieval world. You leave Kiev. The steppe winds fade into the night. The firelight dims. A cold gust brushes your silk cloak, carrying the soft rustle of dry grass. The reign of Vladimir was the story of a man who once walked as a demon, then found the light, but left shadows in the people's memory. His legacy, like a tale told at a winter fair, explosive, then fading, leaving behind lessons about the price of power and the strength of redemption. Live through the dark nights of Vladimir I, and you'll be grateful for the modern world, where there are no pleasure palaces to trap your fate, only one button to block the drama of the steppe. Tonight, as you sit in a warm home, with the freedom to believe and the comforts of modern life, pause and be thankful. You don't live in Vladimir's palace, where every pleasure was proof of violence and every desire a curse of destruction. Leaving behind Kiev's cold winds, we drift into the mists of London, where Charles II rebuilt a kingdom with feasts and glittering mistresses. Charles II, the story of a king who turned Whitehall into a stage of desire, where every pleasure was a play for ultimate power. Imagine yourself standing inside Whitehall Palace. Candlelight flickers against golden-paneled walls. The scent of red wine blends with jasmine perfume. Silken skirts whisper across the wooden floor like secrets in the dark. There's no freedom of speech like you have today, only murmurs under the watchful eyes of spies. This is 1660, the time of Charles II, the merry monarch who made the palace his harem and the throne his pleasure game. Velvet curtains hid wild nights, where royal mistresses pulled strings behind closed doors. Rumors of Charles spread like fireplace stories, like viral posts on X across London, but more seductive than any spotlight on stage. Serving in his court, like stepping into a play, but no one knew how their role would end. Born in 1630, son of Charles I, he grew up in the shadows of the English Civil War. When his father was executed in 1649 by Oliver Cromwell, Charles fled across France and the Netherlands, living a life of exile, dreaming of his crown. In 1660, after Cromwell's death, Charles returned to England, bringing with him the Restoration, a time when theater, feasts, and desire rose from the ashes of Puritan rule. He married Catherine of Braganza, but had no legitimate heir. Instead, he fathered 14 illegitimate children with mistresses ranging from nobility like Barbara Palmer to actresses like Nell Gwynn. There was no fair justice system like you have now, only the king's word and silence from the court. You stand in Whitehall's great hall, scroll clenched in hand, beeswax candles warm the air, harpsichord notes drift softly, and cold wood presses through your shoes. Your heart beats faster as a courtier whispers, "Our king laughs with all, but loves his mistresses more than his people." Charles's reign? Like a play written in secret letters, but filled with more desire than any poet could dream. Charles's lust turned Whitehall into a public harem, like a TikTok live stream where no one could look away. He flaunted his lovers, Barbara Palmer, who tore the Queen's dress at a banquet to prove her place, Nell Gwynn, the people's courtesan, who once joked she was the Protestant whore, earning cheers from the crowd. Louise de Keroualle, a French spy, used desire to control the king, sending secret letters to Paris while Charles slept beside her. He gave titles to his illegitimate sons, granted lands and fortunes to his mistresses, even placed them in court to sway politics. One night, it said he lay with 4 women, from duchesses to maids, then asked for wine instead of tea at breakfast. Once, he bet a night with a mistress for diamonds, turning the bedroom into a casino of lust. There were no public health protections like today, only endless feasts, hiding quiet decay. You stand behind velvet curtains, candlelight gleaming in wine glasses, jasmine heavy in the air, laughter mixed with moans from the royal chamber. Your chest tightens as a maid whispers about a wild horse party, where the king wore no mask so everyone would know who the star was. Charles's harem? Like a podcast performance, but crueler than any midnight whisper behind the throne. The cruelty of Charles hid behind a smile. After taking the throne, he hunted down those who had executed his father. He exhumed Cromwell's corpse, cut off the head, and hung it in the square. More than 40 regicides were executed, hanged, disemboweled, and quartered. The sound of tightening rope echoed with the crowd's roar. The smell of dried blood overwhelmed the scent of flowers in the London air. Like a public post on X, his revenge made the entire court shudder. When the Great Plague struck in 1665, killing tens of thousands, Charles fled the city, leaving the people to survive on their own. Cries for help rang from alleyways, mixing with the stench of corpses on the street. In 1666, the Great Fire consumed London, but Charles was slow to react, and the damage grew worse. Flames glowed red on the Thames. The crackle of burning timber drowned out desperate prayers. He ran a network of spies to watch the people. He persecuted Catholics and dissenters, and in secret he took money from France, offering religious concessions in return, betraying the Church of England. There was no electric light, no heating system, only candlelight and the cold of the palace. You stand in Whitehall Garden. The candlelight dances on the pond. The smoke from the London fire still lingers. Silken dresses rustle, mixed with distant cries for help. Your heart pounds as you hear whispers of those executed under royal orders. The reign of Charles, like a folk ballad whispered in alleys, but far more dangerous than any rumor in the dark. Charles II died in 1685, suddenly, after a seizure. He secretly converted to Catholicism on his deathbed. Church bells rang in the dark, the bitter smell of medicine mixed with wax over the bed. He left the throne to James VI, who would later be deposed, like a TikTok drama cancelled mid-season, causing a stir across London, then quickly forgotten. The people remembered him as the Merry Monarch, a man who brought color back to England, but history sees him as indecisive, blinded by lust and political games. His legacy is a palace full of laughter, spilled wine, and names given titles for a single night in bed. There was no streaming music or VR like you have today. Only living plays in the shadows of Whitehall. You leave the palace. The noise of parties fades into the night. Candlelight dims. A cool breeze flows through your silk cloak, carrying a rustle like the whisper of leaves. The reign of Charles was a story of a king who used charm to mask desire and violence, who turned the bedroom into a battlefield. His legacy? Like a tale told in taverns. Explosive, then forgotten, leaving behind the cost of vanity. To live through the wild nights of Charles II is to feel grateful for the modern age, where no velvet curtain hides manipulation, and a single tap of block ends the palace drama. Tonight, as you sit in peace, with the freedom to speak and the comforts of modern life, spare a quiet thanks that you never lived in Charles's court, where every pleasure was a power play, and every smile held the curse of control. Leaving behind London's fog, we now fly to the Forbidden City, where the Jiajing Emperor sank into alchemy and assassination, under the glow of red lanterns. Jiajing Emperor, the story of a ruler who turned the imperial harem into a dark alchemical furnace, where every pleasure consumed the soul of a dynasty. Imagine yourself standing inside the Forbidden City. Candlelight flickers against crimson pillars. The scent of burning sandalwood blends with the bitter aroma of elixirs. Silk rustles as palace girls drift past, their hems whispering across stone like wind through bamboo. There are no child protection laws like you have today, only the terrifying silence of the harem. It is the year 1521. This is the reign of the Jiajing Emperor, born Zhu Hokong. He turned the palace into an occult laboratory. Virgin blood and lust became rituals for immortality. Red curtains concealed quiet sobs. Palace girls were no more than tools. Rumors of him spread like hawkers in a night market, but darker than any ghost story. To serve in his court was to join a secret rite, with no way out. Only whispers left behind. Born in 1507, Zhu Hokong was the son of a prince, not in the direct line for the throne. When the Zhengde Emperor died childless, he was summoned from a remote region and crowned at age 14. From the start, he caused controversy with the right controversy. He insisted on worshipping his birth father as emperor, defying tradition. Ministers who opposed him were demoted, imprisoned, or beaten to death. In his early years, he reformed the court, punished corruption, fought off Japanese pirates. He held the borders firm. But by 1539, he withdrew from governance, devoted himself to Taoist alchemy. He built altars and secret chambers across the Forbidden City. There was no workplace safety like you have today, only mercury fumes and fear inside the temple halls. You stand in the hall of heavenly purity. Your hand grips a scroll. Incense hangs in the air. Bronze bells echo softly. Cold stone seeps through your silk shoes. Your heart pounds when you hear a eunuch whisper, "The emperor doesn't rule the court, he rules the soul." Jiajing's reign? Like a sacred ritual written in letters, but darker than whispers in a post office. His depravity outmatched any Ming emperor. He recruited hundreds of young girls aged 12 to 14 called pure spirit maidens. They were forced into celibacy, chanting scriptures, preparing for dual cultivation rites to feed him their vital essence. Many collapsed from exhaustion. Some coughed blood. Some simply died quietly. Their bodies dumped into palace gardens. He built a purity chamber to imprison even younger girls aged 8 to 10, called only by serial numbers, like Qingxuan, raised for alchemical sacrifice once they matured. One girl, blind in one eye after falling onto a stone bed, was still forced to serve. She cut off her own ear to escape, but the emperor had her dissected alive to examine her internal energy. A girl who started menstruating and slept in the wrong bed was forced to drink alum water until she died. In 1542, 13 palace girls, desperate from years of abuse, tried to strangle the emperor in a plot known as the Renyan Palace Incident. They failed. All were executed by slow slicing. Their families wiped out, even the one who reported it. There was no access to healthcare like you have today, only dark rituals leading to certain death. You hide behind a silk curtain. Candlelight flickers across a white jade table. The air reeks of pills and burnt offerings. You hear faint moans from the purity chamber. Your chest tightens when you learn of the girl burned alive in a purification rite. Jiajing's harem? Like a live-streamed lesson on a learning app, but crueler than any curse in an ancient scroll. The cruelty of Emperor Jiajing wasn't just about lust. He mixed mercury with virgin blood to forge the crimson jade elixir, believing each pill granted 3 more days of life. Many palace maids and eunuchs died in agony after taking them, officially recorded as suicide. He suspended girls mid-air, pierced their skin with jade needles, or forced them to take aphrodisiacs as part of his experiments on spiritual energy circulation. When famine and plague devastated Shaanxi and Shanxi, he did nothing for the people, but spent vast sums building altars to pray for immortality. He called himself the Celestial Patriarch of Tao, forced his court to study his beliefs, and exiled or punished anyone who questioned him. Even Empress Fang was deposed and imprisoned simply for defending the maids. There were no modern comforts back then, no clean water, no bathrooms, only the suffocating stillness of a palace soaked in incense smoke and the scent of death. You stand in the imperial garden. Candlelight dances on the surface of a lotus pond. The air is thick with mercury and incense. Taoist chanting blends with muffled weeping. Your heart pounds as you hear whispers of girls burned alive as purification rituals. Jiajing's rule, like a story passed down through ancient scrolls, but more terrifying than any rumor told at a night market. He died in 1567, in pain, alone, his organs rotting from years of mercury poisoning. He could no longer eat. No one cried. Only relief remained. He left behind a broken dynasty, an empty treasury, and corruption under the infamous Yan Song. The people called him the killer who used scripture and children's blood. His successor, Emperor Longqing, restored Confucian order and purged the court of superstition. Jiajing's legacy was a palace filled with incense, alchemy, and silent deaths. There were no online classes back then, no ebooks or digital lectures, just deadly rituals dressed as sacred ceremonies. You leave the forbidden city. The bell's echo fades into the night. The candlelight dims. A cool breeze brushes your robe, rustling the lotus leaves like whispered goodbyes. Jiajing's reign was once a time of reform, but lust and obsession turned his court into a factory of fear. His legacy? A legend passed through whispered letters. Explosive, then gone. A warning about the price of blind devotion. Tonight, as you sit in your safe, modern space, with rights, protection, and clean air, pause for a moment. And be glad you never lived in Jiajing's inner alchemy palace, where every pleasure was destruction, and every ritual a curse wrapped in silk. From the candlelight of the forbidden city, we return to the burning streets of Rome, where Nero set the city ablaze, just to build a stage for his fantasies and madness. Nero, the emperor who turned Rome into a stage of desire and fire, where every pleasure proved the brutality of power. Picture yourself standing in ancient Rome. Candlelight flickers across marble columns. The scent of wine mingles with rose blossoms from the imperial gardens. Silk robes swish softly as dancers pass by, their hems brushing the stone floor like waves meeting the shore. There is no creative freedom like you have today. Only performances that obey the emperor's whim. It is the year 54 CE. The young Nero has turned his palace into a theater of lust, and Rome into ashes. Red silk curtains hide lavish banquets, where lovers and slaves become tools of control. Rumors of Nero spread like whispers in the forum, like a post on X, shared across the empire, but darker than any fireside tale. To serve in his palace, like walking into a play. But no one dares leave the stage. He was born in 37 as Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, son of Agrippina, sister to Caligula, later adopted by Emperor Claudius. At 16, after Claudius's sudden death, he took the throne, Rome's youngest emperor. For 5 years, under the guidance of Seneca and Burrus, he ruled with restraint. He lowered taxes, he supported art and sport. Cheers rang through the arena, and fresh flowers masked the scent of dust. But in 59, things changed. Nero claimed full control. He had his mother Agrippina killed, first by sinking a boat beneath her, then sending soldiers to finish the job in her bedroom. Blood on the bed, still heavy with rose perfume. He exiled and executed his wife Octavia, forcing her to take her life after a false charge of infidelity. Her quiet sobs echoed in the palace halls as candlelight dimmed against stone walls. He made Seneca open his veins, blood dripping onto cold marble floors. There was no public security like you enjoy today, only blades deciding fates. You stand in the grand hall, holding a scroll tight. The scent of wax rises, a lyre plays in the distance. Your heart races as a courtier whispers, "Our emperor sings better than he governs." Nero's reign, like a play etched in stone, but bloodier than any village tale. His lust turned Rome into a private stage, like a Twitch livestream no Roman could look away from. He loved music, theater, sport. He forced nobles and citizens to watch him perform, clap, or be accused of treason. In the Domus Aurea, the Golden Palace, he hosted nights of wine, dancers, and slaves. He played Jupiter, drowning in pleasure. He married the slave Sporus, called him Empress, and lived as husband and wife before the court. He also played the bride, in another wedding with a different slave, Doryphorus. He forced noble women into his bed and seized the fortunes of anyone who refused. In 64, the Great Fire of Rome broke out, like a scandalous Twitch stream gone viral. The city screamed in panic. Rumors said Nero had ordered the fire just to build his golden palace, complete with an artificial lake and a 35-meter statue of himself. There were no rights like the ones you have today, only submission to the emperor's desires. You stand behind a silk curtain, candlelight shimmers across the artificial lake, the scent of roses mixes with smoke. Laughter blends with moans from the banquet hall. Your chest tightens as you hear whispers of noble women forced to serve. Nero's palace? Like a Twitch performance told in whispers, but crueler than any curse carved in stone. Nero's cruelty became even more vivid after the Great Fire. To calm the people, he blamed the Christians, burning them alive, crucifying them, or throwing them to lions in the palace gardens, a spectacle he called lighting up Rome. He built the Domus Aurea on the ashes, a golden palace that drained the treasury while the people starved. He competed in the Olympic Games, always winning, even when he sang off-key or fell off his chariot, because judges feared execution. By 68 CE, revolts broke out across the provinces. The Senate declared him a public enemy. Hunted down, Nero killed himself at the age of 30, whispering, "What an artist dies in me," as the sound of marching feet echoed in the dark house, and the smell of damp earth drowned out his last trace of wine. No smartphones, no air conditioning, only candlelight and the suffocating stillness of the imperial palace. You're standing in the garden of the Domus Aurea. Candlelight dances on golden statues. Smoke from the fire still lingers. The soft notes of a lyre drift in, mixed with distant cries for help. Your heart beats harder as you hear of Christians burned alive. Nero's rule, like a tale etched into stone, but far more terrifying than any rumor in the Roman Forum. He left behind a Rome scorched and blood-stained, remembered as the mad emperor who turned the throne into a stage and desire into law. A drama canceled mid-season, leaving Rome in uproar, then silence. The people still whisper about his wild banquets, his forced performances no one dared leave, and the deaths that followed his sword. His legacy? A golden palace, radiant, yet cold, where Nero's voice echoes over the ashes. There was no artistic freedom like you have now, only performances to please an emperor. You leave Rome behind. The sound of the lyre fades into the night, the candle dims. a cool breeze slips past your silk robe, carrying a faint rustle, like leaves brushing together. The reign of Nero was the story of a ruler who began as a promising prince and let lust and violence turn Rome into flames. His legacy? A legend passed like rumors at a fair, loud, dazzling, then gone. But it leaves a warning about the price of madness. After surviving Nero's nights of decadence, you'll be grateful for today's world, where there is no domus aurea to imprison fate, only a block button to escape the livestream of chaos. Tonight, as you sit in peace, with the freedom to create and the comfort of modern life, give quiet thanks that you don't live in Nero's domus aurea, where every pleasure was a path to ruin, and every smile a curse of power. Escaping the flames of Rome, we drift across the Anglo-Saxon fields, where Edwig stirred up the royal court with scandalous romance under a foggy moon. Edwig All-Fair, the story of a young king who turned the throne into a stage of desire, where beauty hid the collapse of a dynasty. Imagine standing in the Great Hall of Kingston. The torchlight flickers across carved wooden walls. The scent of burning oak blends with sweet barley wine. Silks rustle as noblewomen glide past, their sleeves brushing the dirt floor like dry leaves in a forest. There was no personal freedom like you have today. Only whispers that must obey the king's will. This is the year 955, the time of Edwig All-Fair, a young king, handsome beyond reason, who turned the palace into a theater of passion and rebellion. Behind deer-hide curtains, scandals unfolded. Blind love divided the realm. Rumors about Edwig spread like a village fair crier's chant, or like a viral post on X racing through Wessex, but more enticing than a tale told by the fireside. Serving in his court, like walking into a vintage play, with no one daring to guess the ending. He was born around 940, the son of King Edmund I. Edwig ascended the throne at 15, after his father and uncle died without an heir. Brass horns blared through the great hall, the smell of leather armor mixing with the flowers of coronation. England had only just unified after Viking chaos, but the young king soon drew criticism. Nicknamed All-Fair for his looks, he was condemned by the church as arrogant and lustful. During his coronation in 956, he left the banquet midway to be with Lady Elfgifu and her mother. A scandal so great that St. Dunstan dragged him back before the guests. Glass shattered on the stone floor. Torch smoke hung thick in the tense silence. Dunstan was exiled to France. The church turned its back on the king. There was no access to modern education, only the harsh sermons of monks. You stand in the hall, gripping a parchment scroll. Smoke lingers in the rafters. The gusly echoes faintly. Cold earth seeps through your leather shoes. Your heart races as a courtier whispers, "Our king is fairer than the throne, but loves deeper than he rules." Edwig's reign? Like a story told through handwritten letters, but more scandalous than whispers at a village fair. His lust centered around Elfgifu, a love like a Twitch livestream full of controversy, with the whole court unable to look away. He married her despite the church saying they were close kin, a union declared invalid by the Pope in 958. Like a sappy post on X publicly denounced by the church. Monks claimed he skipped council meetings, lounging in the palace with Elfgifu, neglecting his duties. Rumors spread that she controlled him, that desire drowned out the crown. The coronation scandal enraged nobles and clergy alike. Led by Dunstan and Archbishop Oda, they backed his brother Edgar for the throne. In 957, the kingdom split. Edwig held only Wessex, while Edgar ruled Mercia and Northumbria. Like a WhatsApp group torn by drama, the dynasty unraveling in real time. There was no right to defend your honor, only judgments from the church sealing your fate. You stand behind the deer-hide curtain. Torchlight dances in your barley wine. Elfgifu's perfume lingers in the air. The king's laughter mingles with angry murmurs from the council. Your heart sinks hearing of monks exiled for speaking out. Edwig's palace? Like a play told through Twitch gossip, but more chaotic than a curse in scripture. Edwig's rebellion wasn't bathed in blood. There's no record of him ordering killings or oppressing the people. But his exile of Dunstan and defiance of the church lost him the favor of the powerful. They called him weak to desire, brutal to morals, though his brutality was mostly disdain for those who interfered with his private life. In 959, Edwig died suddenly at the age of 19. No one knows why. Some said it was illness, others whispered of poison. The church bells tolled long into the night, and the scent of damp earth swallowed the last traces of barley wine. Clergy loyal to Edgar called it a moral cleansing. But the people remembered him as the beautiful young king, led astray by passion and youth, like a drama cancelled mid-season on TikTok, leaving Wessex buzzing, then forgetting just as fast. There was no electricity, no hot water, no modern comforts like the ones you have today. Only torchlight and the cold hush of a wooden palace. You stand in the courtyard, firelight flickering over the well's surface, the smell of burnt oak and sweet wine lingering, and the wind slipping past the deer-hide curtain. Your heart races as whispers reach your ears of the king's mysterious death. Eadwig's reign, like a tale passed around the village bonfire, shorter than a flame in the dark. He left behind a divided realm. The throne went to Edgar, the so-called good king. Church records slandered Eadwig as depraved, but later voices saw him differently. A teenager, inexperienced, caught between lust and the weight of a crown. His legacy is a story of beauty, blind love, and the cost of defying the church. There were no emails, no social media, only whispered words shaping a man's memory. You walk away from the palace, torchlight fades behind you. The air grows cold, your silk cloak fluttering in the wind, carrying the faint rustle of dry grass. The reign of Eadwig All-Fair, a story of a young king who let desire guide him to downfall. His legacy? Like a village legend, bright, then gone. A lesson in the recklessness of youth. And after surviving the scandalous nights of Eadwig All-Fair, you might just feel grateful for the present day. A time without deer-hide curtains to hide the drama, just one block click away from any chaotic livestream. Tonight, as you sit in freedom, surrounded by the choices and comforts of the modern world, take a quiet breath of thanks. That you were not born in the palace of Edwig All-Fair, where every pleasure was a provocation, and every smile, a curse of power. Leaving behind the fog of England, we now drift toward the windswept island of Capri, where Tiberius turned paradise into a sun-drenched theater of desire. Tiberius, the emperor who turned Capri into a furnace of desire, where cold silence ruled Rome from afar. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of Capri. Candlelight flickers from Village Ovis, dancing on the sea below. The scent of salt mingles with sweet wine. Waves lap gently against stone as silk robes rustle in the shadows. There was no personal freedom, only the quiet fear beneath the emperor's gaze. This was the year 26 AD, the age of Tiberius, the cold ruler who made the Roman Empire tremble in silence. Red silk curtains hid terrible secrets. Desire and power became one. Rumors spread like whispers at a midnight market. Like a viral post on X sweeping through Rome, but darker than any ghost tale by the fire. To serve in his court was like walking into a maze. Every step felt like a sentence waiting to be written. Tiberius was born in 42 BC, son of Livia, the second wife of Augustus. He was a skilled general, expanding Rome with strategy, not blood. But his quiet and suspicious nature kept him distant from the court. Whispers echoed in the marble halls. The scent of ink from petitions mixed with the smoke of temple offerings. Augustus chose him as successor. He took the throne in 14 AD at the age of 55. At first, he ruled calmly, bringing stability after Augustus's golden age. But the death of his son and the betrayal of his advisor Caenus changed him. Tiberius withdrew to Capri, ruling Rome from afar through letters soaked in fear. There was no secure communication like you have today, only messages that decided fates. You stand in the palace hall, scroll in hand, the scent of wax rising from the candles. The sea murmurs outside, a soft lyre plays somewhere behind the wall. The marble floor chills your silk shoes. Your heart races as a servant whispers, the emperor doesn't need a knife, only a letter. The reign of Tiberius? A secret passed by handwritten notes, but darker than any curse carved in stone. The tales of his depravity, perhaps exaggerated, became a chilling legend. On Capri, he built villas with hidden rooms for pleasure. Dancers and slaves entertained lavish feasts. It was like a twisted live stream on Twitch, shocking the empire with every whisper. Rumors told of sexual rituals. Nobles were forced to offer loved ones to stay in favor. Stories of little fish, young slaves trained for his desire, spread through Rome like wildfire. Some who bored him were said to be thrown from cliffs at Villa Ovis. No bodies found, no names remembered. He never appeared in public. But every letter from Capri was a quiet threat. The court obeyed in fear. There was no property protection like today, only submission to the emperor's whims. You stand behind a silk curtain. Candlelight dances on an artificial pool. The air is thick with wine. Laughter echoes from the villa. Waves crash softly in the background. Your chest tightens as you hear of those who vanished after one night of celebration. Tiberius's Capri? A tale whispered like a Twitch stream, but crueler than any rumor carved in stone. The cruelty of Tiberius lay in his silent coldness. He turned the charge of insulting the emperor into a tool of purge, using anonymous letters to arrest, exile, or force people to take their own lives. Many chose death before their names were even called, because they knew there was no chance of survival. Sejanus, his most trusted advisor, was exposed in the year 31. Tiberius had him executed, along with over 300 people connected to him, including women and children. The sound of dragging chains echoed in the dark prison. The scent of dried blood overwhelmed the fragrance of Roman flowers, like a public post on X declaring revenge that sent the entire court into panic. Agrippina the Elder, Caligula's mother, was exiled, tormented, until she starved herself to death. Her 2 sons met the same fate. The waves lapping against her prison island blended with the sound of her desperate moans. From Capri, Tiberius ruled by fear. Each letter he sent was like an invisible blade. No water filters, no high-speed internet like you have today, only the suffocating air of a palace heavy with the scent of death. You stand on the balcony of Villa Jovis. Candlelight flickers on the sea. The smell of salt mixes with incense. Waves crash, faint groans leak from a locked room. Your heart races as you hear of those thrown from the cliffs. Tiberius's rule? Like a ghost story whispered at a midnight fair, but colder than the sea wind at night. Tiberius died in the year 37 at the age of 77, lonely and unloved. It's said that when he was near death, a guard thought he had passed, but when he stirred again, they pressed a pillow over his face to make sure he wouldn't come back. Soft, struggling sounds blended with the sea breeze. The stench of death from his sickbed drowned out the last scent of candle wax. The Roman people cheered. They celebrated the end of the hidden king, like a canceled drama on TikTok that made everyone sigh in relief, then quickly forget. He left behind a stable but suffocating empire, one where fear and rumors of lust overshadowed his strategic brilliance. His legacy? An island of Capri shrouded in mystery, with luxurious villas steeped in curses. No freedom of movement like you have today. Only journeys to Capri that sealed your fate. You leave the villa, the sound of waves fades into the night, the candlelight dims, a cool breeze slips through your silk robe, carrying the faint rustle of leaves. The reign of Tiberius is a tale of a cold genius who let power and desire turn him into a frightening shadow. His legacy? Like a TikTok myth, viral, then vanished, leaving lessons about the price of isolation. After living through the unholy nights of Tiberius, you might feel grateful for the modern world, where no Villa Jovis decides your fate, and one tap on block ends the most toxic live stream. Tonight, as you sit in a safe place, surrounded by freedom and comfort, take a quiet moment to be thankful. You don't live in Tiberius's Villa Jovis, where every pleasure was manipulation, and every silence was the curse of power. Leaving the sunlight of Capri, we step into the darkness of the Congo, where Leopold II hid brutality behind the golden glow of his palace in Brussels. Leopold II, the story of a king who turned Congo into a factory of blood and desire, where every jewel carried the cost of millions of souls. Picture yourself standing inside the Palace of Laeken. Candlelight flickers on marble walls. The scent of burning oak mingles with the thick rubber smell from crates shipped across the sea. Silk rustles as dancers pass by. Their hems brush the cold stone floor, like the whispering leaves of the Congolese jungle. There are no human rights here, not the kind you have today. Only the terrifying silence beneath the shadow of royal power. This is the year 1885, the age of Leopold II, the Belgian king who claimed an entire continent as his private property. Blood and desire were soaked into every gem. Red velvet curtains hid brutal secrets, from the palace in Brussels to the depths of the Congo forest. Rumors spread like carnival barkers at night fairs. Like a trending post on X, they raced across Europe, but bloodier than any ghost story by the fire. To serve in his court was to enter a play where every line could be your death sentence. Born in 1835, Leopold II took the throne in 1865, succeeding his father, Leopold I. His ambitions echoed through palace halls like whispers wrapped in smoke, the scent of fresh ink from colonial contracts mixed with incense from ceremonial altars. His hunger stretched far beyond Belgium's small borders. He craved an empire. In 1885, he seized control of Congo, not for Belgium, but as his personal possession. He called it the Congo Free State. Under the mask of humanity, he turned it into a machine that drained rubber and ivory at the cost of human life. Millions died from forced labor, starvation, and disease. There was no social responsibility, only blood-soaked quotas for rubber. You stand in the great hall, fingers clutching a scroll of parchment. The wax scent of candles floats in the air. A bronze bell tolls in the distance. The cold floor seeps through silk shoes. Your heart races as a courtier leans in and whispers, "Our king is building palaces with Congolese blood." The reign of Leopold, like a secret written in ink, but crueler than a curse carved in stone. His atrocities in Congo defied all standards of the time. Like a savage Twitch live stream, the world recoiled as the truth came to light. His soldiers, the Force Publique, enforced rubber quotas with brutal precision. Those who failed, even children as young as 5, had their hands cut off to compensate for their fathers. The sound of whips echoed through the jungle. The smell of fresh blood blended with burning rubber. Villages were torched. Women were raped. Families were held hostage. Entire communities erased for simply asking to rest. An estimated 8 to 10 million Congolese perished under his rule. Leopold grew rich, hoarding gold francs, building palaces, boulevards, and parks in Brussels. At the 1897 International Exposition, he exhibited over 250 Congolese people like animals in a fake village for European guests to gawk at. It was a display like a viral post on X, boasting of wealth while hiding tears and blood. There were no environmental protections, only the ravaged forests of Congo, consumed by greed. You stand behind the velvet curtain. Candlelight glints on ivory ornaments. The scent of rubber drifts from the crates. Laughter from the banquet blurs into imagined cries from far away. Your chest grows heavy as whispers reach you of children without hands. Leopold's Congo, a story told like a Twitch stream, but more horrifying than any rumor carved into stone. The debauchery of Leopold II, though not the focus like his crimes in the Congo, was no less infamous. After becoming a widower in 1902, he openly indulged himself in seaside villas in Paris, frequenting upscale brothels. In 1906, at the age of 71, he became infatuated with Blanche Delacroix, a 16-year-old girl from Paris. He kept her as a mistress, treated her like a wife, granted her a noble title, and fathered 2 sons with her. Like a romantic post on X that outraged all of Brussels. Blanche lived in a lavish villa, but rumors swirled that she was sleeping with young officers right under the king's nose. He left her millions of francs and a grand estate, provoking fury among the people. Stories spread of wild parties inside the lake and palace, in the Red Room with a round bed and mirrored ceiling, where young girls were handpicked to serve him, like a glamorous Twitch live stream, but darker than any ancient curse. There was no electricity, no modern healthcare like you have today. Only luxury built on blood and tears. You stand in the palace garden, candlelight shimmering on the water, the scent of wine blending with the smell of incense. You hear the whisper of Blanche's silk robe gliding past, mixed with angry murmurs from the courtiers. Your heart races as you hear stories about girls who vanished after night-long feasts. The private life of Leopold, like a story streamed on Twitch, but darker than the curses in old books. Leopold II died in 1909, a year after being forced to hand over the Congo to the Belgian state under international pressure. At his funeral, crowds hurled trash and shouted insults, calling him the Butcher King and a lecherous tyrant. The streets of Brussels echoed with jeers. The scent of smoke from funeral torches mixed with the dust of the road. He left behind a magnificent Belgium full of grand buildings, but also a shattered Congo, where millions of souls had been destroyed. Like a drama canceled on TikTok, sparking global outrage before everyone moved on to the next scandal. His legacy? A radiant palace tainted with sin, where every jewel was paid for in native blood. There was no social media, no online press like you have today, only whispered words shaping a man's reputation. You leave the lake and palace. The chime of bells fades into the night. Candlelight dims. A cool breeze slips beneath your silk cloak, carrying the faint rustle of leaves. The reign of Leopold II is the story of a king who built glory out of ambition and desire, and left behind a stain that cannot be washed away. His legacy, like a viral legend on TikTok, blazing, then gone, leaving behind harsh lessons about the cost of greed. After surviving the brutal nights of Leopold II, you'll be thankful for the modern world, where no blood-soaked forest waits, and it only takes one tap to hit block and leave a toxic stream behind. Tonight, as you sit in safety, with human rights and the comforts of modern life, take a quiet moment to be grateful that you don't live under Leopold's shadow, where every pleasure meant destruction and every jewel carried a curse of power. Out of Congo's darkness, we drift toward the radiant Topkapi Palace, where Sultan Ibrahim first lost himself in incense and silk deep within the Ottoman harem. Ibrahim the Mad, the tale of a sultan who turned his harem into a furnace of lust and his empire into ashes. Imagine yourself standing inside the Topkapi Palace. Candlelight flickers across marble walls. The thick scent of incense blends with the musk of exotic furs. Silks rustle as concubines glide past, and the waves of the Bosphorus lap gently under the moonlight. There was no gender equality like you have today. Only the shadows of desire ruled the harem. It is the year 1640, the reign of Sultan Ibrahim II, called Ibrahim the Mad, a ruler who turned the Ottoman Empire into a stage of depravity and cruelty. Crimson velvet curtains hid dreadful secrets, from glittering harems to ships carrying corpses at sea. Rumors about him spread like fairground gossip, like a viral post on X across Constantinople, but darker than a ghost story by the fireside. To work in his court was like walking into a maze. Every shadowed corner held a disturbing tale. Born in 1615 in Constantinople, Ibrahim grew up in the Kafes, a royal cage where princes were isolated to prevent struggles for the throne. Chains clinked in the dark, and the smell of old wood mixed with smoke from the hearth. Years of fearing for his life, of watching his brothers be executed, twisted his mind. When his brother Murad IV died in 1640, Ibrahim, the only surviving male of the dynasty, was persuaded by his mother Kösem Sultan to take the throne. But he only agreed after seeing his brother's corpse with his own eyes, terrified it might be a deadly trap. There was no public finance accountability like you have today, only extravagant spending, dragging the empire toward ruin. You stand in the palace's great hall. Your hand grips a scroll of parchment. The scent of candle wax rises. Bronze bells echo in the distance. Cold stone seeps through your silk shoes. Your heart pounds as you hear a eunuch whisper, "Our sultan lives like a beast in a golden cage." Ibrahim's reign? Like a whispered rumor passed through handwritten notes, but darker than a ghost tale carved in marble. At first, under the guidance of Grand Vizier Kemal Mustafa Pasha and Kösem Sultan, the court found stability. Economic reforms were made. Peace was brokered with Persia and Austria, and Azov was reclaimed from the Cossacks. You hear the soft rustle of parchment treaties and the faint aroma of wine from court banquets. But by 1644, Ibrahim lost control, manipulated by eunuchs and women of the harem. He launched a long war with Venice. It drained the treasury, all to fund his lavish desires, like a luxury Twitch livestream flaunting war while hiding a collapsing bank. His harem, home to 280 to 300 concubines, became a center of perverse and violent pleasures. Groans blended with the music of the ode in the night gardens. He hosted orgies in the palace gardens, forcing women to crawl naked like animals, while he played the stallion before the crowd. Once, after being refused, he raped the daughter of a powerful cleric. The ulema were outraged. There was no mental health care like you have today. Only madness, racing toward disaster. You stand behind velvet curtains, candlelight dances on gilded mirrors, the scent of wine mixes with sable fur, savage laughter echoes from the banquet hall. Your chest feels heavy as you hear of girls coerced into darkness. Ibrahim's harem? Like a rumor whispered across Twitch, but more terrifying than curses carved into stone. Ibrahim's depravity went far beyond imagination. He was obsessed with fat women, especially Shivakar Sultan, who who was said to weigh up to 150 kilograms. She became his favorite and was named his chief consort. Rumors said he would smear honey all over her body in a bizarre ritual, like believing fat women brought good luck and strong sons. The scent of sweet honey mixed with incense lingered in the mirrored room they shared. He built a mirror room, its walls gleaming so he could admire himself during his nights of pleasure with dozens of concubines. Some nights, he ordered the girls to crawl like animals, pretending to be cats or deer, so he could hunt them inside a maze built in the palace. His superstition went even deeper. He believed that sleeping with witches, like Shekarpari Hatun, who used incense and spells, would protect him from assassination. Shekarpari became powerful, running the harem and selling government positions. One chilling tale said that, suspecting one concubine of cheating, Ibrahim ordered 280 women to be tied in sacks and thrown into the Bosphorus, a twisted act of cleaning the harem. The sound of the sack sinking blended with the waves, and the scent of salt water drowned out the last trace of silk and perfume. Even if the story is exaggerated, it reveals the brutality of his reign, like a shocking post on X that sent all of Constantinople into a panic. There were no security cameras back then, only whispers that decided the fate of hundreds. You walk through the palace halls, dim candlelight flickering, the scent of incense thick in the air. The waves of the Bosphorus sound like the voices of the souls who never returned. Your heart beats faster at the thought of those sacks under the sea. Ibrahim the Mad, like a Twitch rumor gone viral, but far more gruesome than any carnival tale. By 1648, the rage of the people and the elites had reached its peak. Venice had blockaded the Dardanelles, causing a shortage of goods. The heavy taxes needed to fund Ibrahim's luxury sparked revolts, like a revolt hashtag exploding across X, shaking the empire to its core. The Janissaries and the Ulema, with Qasem Sultan's approval, dethroned him on August 8, 1648. Grand Vizier Ahmed Pasha was torn apart by a mob, earning the name Hezar Pare, 1,000 pieces. Ibrahim was imprisoned in Topkapi, the palace he once ruled. His own mother, Qasem, agreed to a fatwa that said, if there are 2 caliphs, kill one. On August 18, 1648, Ibrahim was strangled. As the rope tightened, he cried out in despair, "Will no one who has eaten my bread show me mercy?" The sound of rope tightening echoed through the cell. The scent of death replaced the last traces of incense. His death was only the second execution of a sultan in Ottoman history. It ended a reign of blood and desire, like a cancelled drama on TikTok, that made all of Constantinople exhale in relief, then quickly move on. There was no freedom of information then, only secrets buried in the palace walls. You leave Topkapi behind. The candles fade, the waves of the Bosphorus blend with the night wind, carrying the scent of salt and fur. Ibrahim's reign was a tale of a king trapped in a golden cage, turning the harem into a furnace of lust and an empire into ashes. His legacy, like a whispered curse beside the fireplace, burning bright then vanishing, leaving only lessons about the madness of unchecked power. To survive the blasphemous nights of Mad Ibrahim is to appreciate modern life. There are no harems locking away your fate, just one button to block a toxic livestream. Tonight, as you sit in peace, safe in the freedoms of the present day, take a moment to be thankful you didn't live under the shadow of Mad Ibrahim, where every smile could be a sentence, and every gem, the blood price of 100 souls. Now, leave behind the opulence of Topkapi and cross the desert sands of Egypt, where Akhenaten worshipped the sun and court scandals bloomed under the blinding light. Akhenaten, the story of a pharaoh who turned the sun god into desire, where every sunbeam was a curse of heresy. Imagine standing in the temple of Amarna, harsh sunlight slicing through marble columns, incense smoke mixing with the dry scent of desert sand, silk robes whispering past from high priests chanting softly beneath a cloudless sky. There was no freedom of belief like you have today, only the light of Aten ruling over every soul. This was 1353 BCE, the time of Pharaoh Akhenaten, a king who shattered thousands of years of tradition, who made the sun god his obsession, and his palace the stage of heresy. The colorful reliefs hid dark secrets, unusual love, divine curses, rumors spreading like desert wind, like a viral post on X sweeping through Thebes, more dazzling than a fireside tale in the dunes. To serve in his court, It was like stepping into a dream, where every sunbeam whispered power and longing. Born as Amenhotep IV, son of Pharaoh Amenhotep III and Queen Tiye, Akhenaten rose to power around 1353 BCE, when the chants to Amun still echoed through Karnak, and the scent of burnt offerings lingered thick in the air. At first he followed tradition, worshipping Amun, but soon he declared loyalty to Aten alone. He changed his name to Akhenaten, useful to Aten. He banned all other gods, closed temples, dismissed priests, erased the name of Amun from every stone, even his father's, like a hashtag Aten only blazing across X. It outraged nobles and commoners alike. No social equality like you have today, only royal decrees forcing a whole kingdom to kneel beneath Aten's light. You stand in the great temple hall, papyrus scroll in hand, incense drifting in waves, sunlight glowing on reliefs of Akhenaten embracing Nefertiti, stone floors scorching beneath silk shoes. Your heart races as a priest whispers, "Our king seeks to become a god, but in doing so, he destroys the gods." The reign of Akhenaten, like a rumor etched into stone but bolder than any tale told by desert firelight. But Akhenaten didn't stop at faith. He abandoned Thebes, Egypt's political and religious heart for millennia, to build a new city in the desert. Akhetaten, a city for Aten alone. Like a Twitch livestream showing off new architecture, but hiding the pain of forced migration. The entire court, nobles, priests, scribes, were relocated to barren lands. The buildings had a new style, natural curves, open spaces, reliefs of Akhenaten and Nefertiti kissing in the sunlight of Aten. The art of Amarna showed him with a strange body, wide hips, soft chest, long face, a fusion of male and female, becoming the complete god. Some say he led sacred rites filled with sensuality, he and Nefertiti as divine husband and wife, recreating the cosmos through union. No access to art and culture like you have now. Only stone carvings telling the pharaoh's desire. You walk through Amarna's halls, sunlight dancing on sandstone, the desert's heat mingling with lotus perfume, prayers rising beneath the rustle of Nefertiti's robes. Your heart grows heavy as news spreads of old temples destroyed. Akhenaten's Amarna, like a Twitch tale told in sunlight, bright, bold, but burning with secrets. The depravity of Akhenaten lay in his unusual relationships, though some may have been exaggerated by later enemies. He revered his mother, Queen Tiye, to the point of depicting her as his equal in rituals, seated beside the god Aten like a divine consort. The rustle of Tiye's silk robes in ceremony, the thick scent of incense from Aten's altar, it all blurred the lines between worship and something far more intimate. Rumors spread that he had crossed the line with Tiye to legitimize the royal bloodline, like a shocking post on X, leaving the court whispering in shadows. With Nefertiti, he showed a deep, consuming affection. He called her the perfect woman of Aten's light, and the two often appeared half-naked in public ceremonies. Reliefs show him being unusually close to his daughters, especially Meritaten and Ankhesenpaten, with embraces and kisses that went beyond fatherly love. Some speculate he married one of them. The death of Princess Meketaten may have been tied to giving birth to her father's child. There was also Smenkhkar, a vizier or royal prince, whose closeness to Akhenaten was carved in stone with an intimacy rare for men. Many whispered they were lovers. There was no historical preservation back then, no comment sections to clarify, just temples with defaced reliefs chiseled to erase the memory of heresy. You stand now in the sunlit courtyard of the Amarna temple. The reliefs shimmer in the heat, the incense clings to the air, the desert wind hums through prayers. Your heart beats faster as you hear of the secret rites performed in darkness. Akhenaten's palace, like a viral Twitch stream, but darker than any desert curse. After 17 years, he vanished. No one knows if it was illness, murder, or a quiet removal to stop Egypt from collapsing. The desert wind howls through the ruins of Amarna. Dry sand smothers the last trace of incense. The city was abandoned, the Aten cult erased. His name chiseled off every monument by pharaohs like Tutankhamun. A damnatio memoriae, erasure from memory. Like a TikTok drama that got cancelled, leaving Egypt relieved and silent. He left behind a kingdom in chaos. The Near East slipped away, the economy crumbled. But his legacy, cursed as it was, survived in the strange, elegant art of Amarna. And a question, was this the first spark of true monotheism? There was no modern medicine, no forensics, no science to explain the bones beneath the sand. only mysteries, buried with the pharaoh in the heat of history. You walk away from the temple, the sunlight fades, the incense grows faint. The wind carries dust and the whisper of silk, like voices from forgotten gods. Akhenaten's reign was the story of a man who tried to become a god, and was cursed by the very light he worshipped. His legacy, like a legend, passed through TikTok, dazzling, then gone, leaving only the price of heresy. If you had lived in the heretical days of Akhenaten, you might cherish today, a world without Aten's blinding sunlight, where a simple tap can block a controversial live stream. Tonight, as you sit in freedom, under the light of truth, with the right to believe or not believe, take a quiet moment to be grateful you don't live under Akhenaten's sun, where every ray was a curse, and every smile hid the hunger of a god. Leaving behind Egypt's burning sands, we drift now to the misty Elburz Mountains, where the Hashashin move in silence, and daggers become whispers of paradise. Hashashin, a tale of shadows within shadows, where every dagger is a whisper from paradise. Imagine standing inside Alamut Fortress, a mountaintop stronghold perched high in the Elburz Range. Its cliffs rise over 2,000 meters, shielding every path like a hidden intelligence HQ. Moonlight seeps through narrow cracks in the stone walls, carrying the scent of incense from brass censers mixed with the cold desert wind. Silk robes rustle in the night, assassins passing by like ghosts, their movements blending with the wind whistling past the cliffs. There is no personal freedom here like you have today, only absolute loyalty to a master in the shadows. This is the year 1090, the era of the Hashashin, an Islamic order, half myth, half reality, where each dagger didn't just kill, it planted fear that echoed for centuries. The granite walls of Alamut hide secret tunnels and training chambers. Deep below, a library filled with ancient books on astronomy, medicine, and philosophy, a hidden treasure trove no enemy ever touched. Rumors of them spread like a trending post at a midnight bazaar, like a viral tweet across the Middle East, sharper than any blade. To serve this order was to step into a world where every shadow could kill, and every word was a blood oath. The Hashashin were born under the hand of Hassani Saba, a scholar and brilliant strategist, leader of the Nizari Ismailis, a Shia minority hunted by the Sunni Empire. He was called the Old Man of the Mountain. But Hassan was more than a religious leader. He was a master manipulator. From his secluded life in Alamut, he controlled everything through black ink letters and whispers in the dark. Picture yourself in Alamut's library. Candlelight flickers over old books on astronomy and thought. The smell of dried ink rises. Hassan's voice echoes as he chants, like a soft curse in the air. From this very room, he selected and trained the Fedayeen, warriors ready to die for their mission. They were sent to eliminate the powerful Seljuk viziers, crusader counts, shaking both the Middle East and Europe to their core. Walk down a stone corridor in Alamut. Moonlight falls through a narrow slit, scriptures carved into the walls, cold stone smells of incense. Your footsteps echo like reminders of their iron discipline. There were no cybersecurity systems like today, only a web of spies moving unseen. Stand in the fortress courtyard. Moonlight kisses the stone. The training hall smells of burnt incense. Fedayeen whispers sound like scripture. Your heart races as one of them says, "One dagger can change an empire." The Hashashin, like rumors passed by hand, but sharper than a blade in the night. The organization itself was a marvel of medieval design. Hassani Saba, with razor-sharp intellect, created a strict hierarchy. Dai, his lieutenants, issued commands while Fedayeen became perfect ghosts. He gathered knowledge from across the Islamic world. Alamut became a living library. The assassins trained not just in combat, but in languages, disguise, and psychological warfare. Like a secretive CEO running a tech empire from the shadows, Alamut wasn't just a fortress, it was a command center. Training halls carved into the mountain where Fedayeen learned to scale cliffs, wield daggers, and vanish into crowds. There's a legend that Hassan built a fake paradise in a sealed valley near Alamut. New recruits were drugged and awoke in a garden of flowing streams, fruit trees, and women. They believed they had seen heaven, like early VR used to control minds and forge unbreakable loyalty. Maybe it was just enemy propaganda. But it haunted both East and West for centuries. No HR systems like today, only blood oaths and steel discipline in stone halls. Walk through the secret garden of Alamut. Fake fruit trees under moonlight. The scent of jasmine from artificial streams, water flows, mountain winds hum, a soft promise of paradise. Your heart feels heavy as you learn of young men who gave up their lives to become shadows. Hassan's organization? Like a secret leaking through YouTube, but deadlier than curses carved in stone. The tactics of the Hashashin were the pinnacle of psychological warfare. They used no armies, only a single assassin who would spend years infiltrating the enemy. He might live as a monk, a merchant, or a servant, before striking with deadly precision. The assassination of Nizam al-Mulk, the powerful vizier of the Seljuk Empire in 1092, is a prime example. A Hashashin, disguised as a Sufi, approached him among a crowd of pilgrims. Sunlight caught the glint of a cold dagger. The smell of blood rose as he fell. The crowd's panic echoed in the air. The Seljuk court plunged into chaos, like a shocking post going viral on medieval Twitter. In 1192, Conrad of Montferrat, the future king of Jerusalem, was stabbed in the streets of Tyre by two assassins dressed as monks. Candlelight flickered from a nearby church. Guards shouted in confusion. The scent of salt from the sea mixed with the blood on the pavement. The Crusader world was horrified. They nearly killed Saladin, the great Muslim king, twice, in 1175 and 1176. They left a dagger on his pillow along with a note of warning. Moonlight glinted off the blade. Desert winds carried the breath of death. Saladin agreed to a secret peace. There was no such thing as privacy protection like you have today. Only silent killers moving in palace shadows. You stand now in the training chamber of Alamut. A candle flickers across rows of sharpened blades. The smell of oil and stone mingles with the sound of steel. A mission is being prepared, planned in the fortress's hidden rooms. Your heart races as you hear of assassins who vanish after each strike. The tactics of the Hashashin? Like a hashtag, fear the dagger spreading across ancient Twitter, keeping empires up at night. The Hashashin did not kill civilians. They targeted only the powerful, priests, kings, caliphs. Guided by one principle, kill one to save thousands. They believed that killing the right person could stop a war, topple a tyrant, or protect the Ismaili sect from Sunni empires and crusaders. Once, they left a dagger on the pillow of King Richard the Lionheart, with a note that read, "We could have killed you, but we didn't, this time." Candlelight danced inside his war tent, the scent of leather armor mixed with the dry desert wind. Richard quietly negotiated. So did Saladin, after escaping 2 attempts on his life. Their fortresses, especially Alamut, were impregnable. Walls 10 meters high, iron gates, underground tunnels leading to secret exits. Even Mongols and Crusaders hesitated to attack. One story tells that as Mongol armies approached, a Hashashin leader ordered the Alamut library burned, so no knowledge would fall into enemy hands. Flames roared in the night. The scent of ancient parchment rose with the incense smoke. Moonlight lit the crumbling walls of Alamut Fortress. There was no global media like you have today, only whispers that shaped the fate of empires. You stand on the ramparts of Alamut. Moonlight glows on carved stones. The wind carries incense and the faint chants of the Fedayeen. It feels like the soul of the fortress still lingers. Your heart trembles at the secrets buried in that fire. The legacy of the Hashashin, like a story passed around on YouTube, but more haunting than a fireside myth. The Hashashin faced powerful enemies, from the Seljuk Empire and the Crusaders to the Mongols. Hassani Sabah, with strategic vision, turned the Hashashin into a nightmare for empires. Saladin abandoned his plans to attack Masyaf. Richard the Lionheart sought peace instead of war, like a modern tech CEO running a remote global network from a mountain fortress. In 1256, Hulagu Khan and the Mongols attacked. They destroyed Alamut, the sound of stone cracking under hooves, the smell of smoke from burning walls blended with the desert dust. But the spirit of the Hashashin continued to haunt their enemies. Some say a few assassins survived. They vanished into secret societies or into modern branches of the Ismaili faith, like a cancelled drama on Twitter, briefly terrifying the Middle East before fading into silence. The name Hashashin left a permanent mark. The English word assassin comes from them. Their image lives on in pop culture, from Crusader tales to the video game Assassin's Creed, portrayed as shadow warriors with noble ideals. There was no access to knowledge like you have today, only secrets burnt to ash with the fortress. You walk past Masyaf, the moon fades, smoke from incense mixes with the desert wind. Silk robes brush softly like ghosts, as if Alamut still whispers through its crumbling walls. Your heart beats faster at the thought of assassins melting into history. The end of the Hashashin, like a secret spreading across Twitter. Brilliant, then gone, leaving behind a curse of shadows. The influence of the Hashashin reached beyond the Middle Ages. To the Ismailis, they were warriors of faith against oppression. To the Sunnis and the Crusaders, they were ghosts of fear. To modern historians, they were pioneers of intelligence, with sharp logic and psychological warfare. Hassani Sabah never left Alamut. He ruled from within. With intellect and devotion, he turned a small sect into a threat to empires. Like a tweet from an anonymous account that suddenly captures the world's attention. They were branded Hashashin, hashish addicts, as an insult. But there's no solid proof they used drugs to control followers. Instead, their total loyalty came from religious belief and iron discipline. They weren't just killers. They were symbols of secrecy, of blind faith, of power from the shadows. The word assassin became their linguistic legacy. Their image inspired tales of ninjas, Templars, and modern secret orders. There was no data storage like yours today. Only legends carved in stone, slowly erased by time. You leave Alamut. The moon melts into darkness. The wind carries sand and frankincense. Silk robes flutter like the fortress's final breath. The Hashashin were ghosts who lived for a mission, turning every blade into a whispered prayer for paradise. The legacy of Hassan and the assassinations he ordered, like a hashtag spreading across Twitter, assassin, terrifying, mesmerizing, a lesson in power, and the cost of faith. Tonight, as you sit in your safe space, thinking of Hashashin daggers, Hassani Sabah's brilliance, and the fortress of Alamut high in the Elburz Mountains, give quiet thanks that you don't live in its shadow, where every knife was a promise of paradise, and every shadow was an assassin. Leaving the shadows of Alamut, you soar across the Gobi Desert, where the Great Wall of China winds like a stone dragon, each brick whispering a tale of sorrow and glory. The Great Wall of China, a tale of a stone dragon winding through time, with every brick whispering a story of sorrow and pride. Picture yourself standing atop one of its watchtowers. Morning light filters through the cracks in the stone, carrying the scent of tamped earth and dry grass from the Gobi Desert. The wind howls through the Yan Mountains, mingling with the soft rustle of silk robes worn by ancient guards. There are no highways connecting the world, like the ones you know today. Only this stone dragon, slithering through deserts and mountains. It's 221 BCE, the reign of Qin Shi Huang. The first bricks have just been laid, the beginning of a project that would span 2 millennia, stretching over 21,000 kilometers from the Bohai Sea to the Gobi. Each stone, each layer of rammed earth is a story of power, sacrifice, and the longing to protect an empire. Standing on this wall, you feel the weight of history pressing beneath your feet, as if every step echoes the cries of those buried beneath the stone. The Great Wall, like a hashtag, Great Wall, trending across centuries, but etched deeper than any post carved in stone. This is not a single wall. It's a complex defense network. Walls, watchtowers, fortresses, deep moats, and barracks. It stretches across 15 provinces from Shanhai Pass in Hebei, where the dragon's head meets the sea, to Jiayu Pass in Gansu, where the tail sinks into sand. It cuts through the North China Plain, scales the Yan Mountains, winds through inner Mongolian deserts, and adapts to every terrain, from fertile grasslands to vertical cliffs. The wall averages 6 to 8 meters high, wide enough for 5 soldiers to march side by side. Watchtowers stand every few hundred meters, ready to light signal fires when the Xiongnu or Mongols approached, like a live stream alert on ancient YouTube, broadcasting danger from the north. Materials changed by region. Granite in Hebei's mountains, rammed earth mixed with grass in the Gobi, and during the Ming Dynasty, kiln-fired bricks near Beijing, bonded with sticky rice mortar, a brilliant invention that kept the wall intact for centuries, like the reinforced concrete of its time. You stand on a Ming-era stretch of the wall. The sun glints off bricks smooth as silk. A faint scent of dried rice mortar rises from the cracks. Stone crunches under your silk shoes. There are no modern cranes or steel scaffolds here, only human hands and the persistence of nature. Your heart pounds as you look down the valley where soldiers once stood watch through countless dynasties. The Great Wall? Like a 2,000-year-long live stream on YouTube, but far more tragic than any fireside tale. The wall's history begins in the Warring States period, 7th century BCE. States like Yan, Zhao, and Qi built their own walls to defend against each other and nomadic tribes. Stone clanged in the cold wind. The scent of sweat and dust filled the air. In 221 BCE, after unifying China, Qin Shi Huang ordered these fragmented walls connected, a single line of defense against the Xiongnu of the north. Like an Instagram post declaring imperial unity, yet hiding the suffering behind it. Hundreds of thousands of peasants, soldiers, and prisoners were forced to labor in brutal conditions. Many died from exhaustion, hunger, or collapse. The wall earned a grim title, the world's longest graveyard. The Han Dynasty extended it westward, fortifying the Silk Road with outposts and granaries. The Sui and Tang paid less attention, focusing on diplomacy, letting the wall decay. Then came the Ming. From the 14th to 17th centuries, they brought the wall to its peak, technically and strategically. Bricks were mass-produced in giant earth kilns, hauled along mountain paths, bonded with sticky rice mortar. They built strongholds like Badaling and Mutianyu, complete with roofed watchtowers, observation windows, and intricate smoke signal systems. A telecommunications network before its time. You walk along a Ming-era section. Red bricks blaze in the sun. Dry earth mingles with the scent of old rice mortar. The wind carries echoes of workers who laid each brick. There's no city planning like what you know today. Only long-term defense strategies etched into the land over centuries. Your heart grows heavy thinking of the lives buried beneath these stones. The wall's story? Like a tale passed through Instagram, but soaked in more blood than any desert curse ever whispered. The Great Wall of China wasn't just a shield. It was a complete defense system, built not to stop invaders outright, but to slow them down, to wear them out. The nomads from the north, Xiongnu, Mongols, would find their cavalry frustrated by deep moats and double walls. Walls not just of stone, but of time and exhaustion. Watchtowers and smoke signals sent alarms across vast distances, like an ancient Instagram alert, spreading danger from tower to tower, a chain reaction of fire and fear. Behind those walls, fortresses housed troops, barracks offered shelter, and supplies stood ready for a long fight, not a quick clash. But the wall wasn't only about military defense. It marked a boundary between civilized China and the barbarians beyond. A stone line drawn through history, declaring that the center of the world was here. Yet no wall is invincible. In 1644, General Wu Sangui opened the gates at Shanhai Pass, letting the Manchu army march through. And with that one choice, the Ming Dynasty fell. The Great Wall, for all its strength, could not block a change of heart. There were no heritage preservation laws back then. Only forgotten bricks, buried in dust and silence. You stand on a watchtower in Badaling. The sunlight fades. The scent of stone and wild grass blends in the wind. It whistles through the tower, like whispers from soldiers long gone. Your heart quickens as you imagine the gates opening from within. The walls roll like a story passed through Instagram, but more fragile than the promises of an empire. Building the wall was a marvel beyond its time, and a tragedy of human cost. Millions were mobilized, soldiers, laborers, prisoners, forced to work in deserts, on cliffs, through wind and snow. Many died from hunger, cold, exhaustion. Their bodies were buried in the foundations, turning the wall into what some called the longest graveyard on earth. There's a legend of Lady Mengjiang, a young wife who searched for her husband, only to learn he died building the wall under Qin rule. She wept by the stonework, and her grief was so deep that a section of the wall collapsed, revealing his bones beneath. A story passed by generations, like a viral YouTube video spreading the sorrow of the nameless. You touch a single brick. Moonlight reflects off its cold surface. The smell of dry earth rises. Wind rushes over the stones, like the faint cry of Lady Mengjiang echoing through the mountains. The construction techniques in the Ming era stood out. Kiln-fired bricks, laid with precision. Mortar made from sticky rice, stronger than any concrete of its time. double walls designed to break Mongol cavalry, an engineering feat like a 3D printed fortress built without machines. No modern cranes, no cement mixers, just hands, sweat, and blood. Your heart stirs, thinking of those nameless workers. The wall's engineering? Like a YouTube ballad that went viral, but sadder than any fireside lullaby ever told. The Great Wall of China was never just a military structure. It was a two-sided symbol, a source of pride in unyielding will, and a monument to human suffering. For the Chinese state, it embodied unity and strength, a barrier protecting civilization from the nomadic north. But for the common people, it was a psychological wall, a line that imprisoned the nameless and walled off freedom. The legend of Lady Meng Jiang, whose mourning shook the wall, became a cry for the unjustly dead. It lives on in folk songs, whispered on cold moonlit nights, passed down as a tragic symbol of sacrifice. People once believed the wall could be seen from the moon. In truth, even from Earth's orbit, it blends into the landscape. And yet, it remains an immortal wonder, recognized by UNESCO in 1987, like an Instagram post gone viral, honoring greatness worldwide. There was no global tourism back then, only rugged roads leading to silent stones. You stand on Mutianyu. The sunset stains the bricks in red. The dry grass sways in the wind. Silk brushes your arm like history breathing through fabric. Your heart pounds, thinking of stories buried beneath your feet. The wall's meaning? Like a hashtag, Great Wall, circulating across the internet, but deeper than a desert legend. Today, the wall welcomes millions, from Badaling to Jinshanling. Ming bricks still hold, echoing with tourist footsteps, scented with dust and mountain weeds. But only around 8% is in good condition. The rest, eroded, scavenged, or lost to modern construction. The Chinese government uses 3D scans and heritage laws to protect it, but with over 21,000 kilometers to defend, it's a steep battle. Like a conservation campaign on YouTube, asking the world for help. Some villagers took stones to build homes, some tourists damaged what was left. The Great Wall is not just China's legacy, it belongs to us all. There were no climate laws back then, only bricks buried under dust and time. You leave the watchtower, the moonlight glows faintly, the dry earth breathes in the wind, silk trails behind you like the ghosts of nameless builders. The wall tells a story of a stone dragon twisting through mountains and memory, carrying both pride and pain. Its legacy? Like a myth spreading on YouTube, majestic and mournful, a reminder of what power costs and what endures. To survive the Great Wall's harsh days was to crave the modern world, where no wall traps fate and one block click ends a toxic live stream. Tonight, as you sit in peace, thinking of Ming bricks and the weeping of Lady Meng Jiang, take a quiet breath of gratitude. You never had to build the wall, where every brick holds a tale and every step rests on a soul. Out of the Gobi winds into the tropical forest of Ndongo, where Queen Nzinga, warrior and diplomat, shook empires beneath the blazing sun. Nzinga, the warrior queen of Africa, the woman who made empires tremble. Imagine walking through the tropical forest of the Ndongo kingdom in the year 1622. Sunlight breaks through the thick canopy, glinting off the spear you carry on your shoulder. The smell of damp earth mixes with smoke from a distant village. War drums echo through the jungle. Rough cloth rustles as you follow Nzinga, a queen with eyes sharp as blades, leading her people to Luanda to face the Portuguese colonizers. There's no social media to spread her story, no hashtag to make her go viral. Only the beat of drums and whispers between the trees. This is the age of slave chains, European guns, and one woman bold enough to challenge it all. Nzinga, born in 1583, was named after the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck at birth. A sign, they said, of a child destined to lead. She wasn't just a princess of Ndongo. She would become queen of both Ndongo and Matamba, and make empires fear her name for over 40 years. Nzinga? Think of a meme, Nzinga the Queen, spreading across X through time, but fiercer than any love letter read by a fireside. Now you step into the negotiation room in Luanda. Sunlight streams through stone windows, reflecting off polished armor of Portuguese envoys. The smell of gunpowder lingers. Whispers of officials float like mocking laughter. They forgot to place a chair for Nzinga, a subtle insult. A silent way of saying, this black queen is beneath them, not worthy to sit beside white men on high chairs. But Nzinga, in a blazing red silk robe, just smiles calmly. She signals with her eyes. A bodyguard kneels, offering his back as a throne. Nzinga sits tall, eye level with the Portuguese governor. Her gaze slices through every scheme. The sound of cloth brushing echoes with your own heartbeat. She says nothing, but her silence roars louder than any declaration. She is queen. Her dignity will not be lowered. Not for gender, not for skin color. There's no feminism yet. Only her steel will in a man's world. Legend says after the meeting she vowed never to sit on the same seat twice. A proud statement that left Luanda stunned. You rise to your feet. The sun burns your shoulders. The scent of forest earth blends with the breeze. Your chest tightens with awe. That meeting? Like a Twitch livestream that shook the world, but deeper than any tale told by firelight. Nzinga was born into the royal house of Ndongo, but the throne wasn't hers to claim. Her father, King Kiluanji, saw her brilliance. He taught her to ride horses, throw spears, and read and write Portuguese. Skills that would one day let her speak to the enemy without an interpreter. The sound of hooves echoes on red earth. Smoke from the village forge drifts in the air. When her brother, King Mbandi, died in 1624, Ndongo plunged into chaos. Civil war, colonial pressure. Nzinga crushed her rivals, even her own nephew. Folktales say she did it to unify the kingdom, like a post on X announcing unity, but hiding blood and tears. She crowned herself queen, conquered Matamba, forged the two kingdoms into a fortress of resistance. No internet to build alliances like you have now, only drums and tribal pacts in the deep forest. You walk beside Nzinga through Matamba. Sunlight glitters on the leaves, smoke from a forge lingers in the air. Her footsteps on dry earth beat like war drums. Your heart races as she gives commands without hesitation. Nzinga's coronation? Like a hashtag, Queen Nzinga, spreading across X from jungle to jungle, but more tragic, more powerful than any fireside whisper. When Ndongo fell into Portuguese hands, Nzinga retreated to Matamba, turning the deep forest into an impenetrable base. She welcomed escaped slaves, forged alliances with local tribes, and sided with the Dutch, Portugal's enemy. She led guerrilla troops striking at night, using terrain to terrify mercenaries, like a Twitch livestream showing off surprise tactics, sending colonists into panic. She converted to Christianity, taking the name Ana de Souza, not out of faith but as a diplomatic strategy, forcing her enemies to recognize her on the global stage. There was no international media like you have today, only handwritten letters and her sharp, commanding voice. You stand in the Matamba camp. The campfire crackles. The scent of burning wood mixes with the beat of war drums. Nzinga's armor glints under the moonlight. Your heart pounds as you watch her ride like a general. Nzinga's tactics, like a viral X-post spreading through tribal networks, but stronger than any fireside tale. Nzinga didn't just wield spears, she wielded strategy. She divided her enemies, planted spies, and used marriages to link tribal leaders. A folk story says she kept a troop of young male warriors and made them wear women's clothes. Maybe exaggerated, but it shows how she challenged gender norms. Like a viral TikTok that flips expectations, leaving people stunned. The Portuguese called her the sweet danger, afraid of her unpredictability. For over 30 years, she made colonial armies stumble, unable to conquer Matamba. There were no human rights defenders like you have today, only the will of a woman defending her people. You walk through the forest. Sunlight hits your spear. The scent of damp earth blends with the wind. Your heart beats faster as you watch her negotiating with Dutch envoys. Nzinga's strategy? Like a TikTok meme that rattled an empire, but deeper than any message sent through jungle couriers. In her old age, Nzinga built peace. She negotiated with Portugal, secured recognition as the rightful queen, fought the slave trade, and rebuilt Matamba. The drums of peace echoed through the forest. The scent of red earth blended with wildflowers. When she died in 1663 at 80 years old, she left behind an independent kingdom and an immortal legacy. Like a final X-post declaring peace, spreading across Africa. To the people of Angola, she is the Queen Mother, a symbol of freedom and pride. Her name graces the main avenue in Luanda, schools and monuments, where she stands spear in hand, her eyes fierce, reminding all, freedom must be claimed. She inspired generations of Black feminist movements, from children's books for African girls to songs and murals in the Black Lives Matter movement, where she is honored as the first black queen to challenge a white empire. There were no modern CEOs like you have today, only a queen leading her people through fire and war. You stand beside Nzinga's bronze statue. Sunlight touches your skin. The scent of red earth mingles with the breeze. Your cotton shirt rustles like a whisper from history. Your heart stirs with the power of her legacy. Nzinga lives on, like a hashtag, Nzinga lives, spreading across centuries, but greater than any tale told by firelight. Legend has it that Nzinga was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, a sign of a great leader to come. Another tale says she once declared she could fight off 25 warriors barehanded, as long as they didn't have guns. There are whispers of a treasure hidden deep in Matamba, protected by a curse. But no one has found proof, only stories passed down by the firelight, where the smell of smoke mixes with the scent of forest earth. These tales, real or folklore, add layers to the legend of a woman who made empires tremble. Like a viral TikTok, her story spread across the villages. Today she stands as a symbol of feminism and racial justice. From Angola to marches around the world. Her image appears in paintings, films, and podcasts, still inspiring those who fight for justice and equality. There was no connected world with one click, like you have today. Only the sound of drums and the sharp tip of Nzinga's spear. You step out of the forest, moonlight dancing on metal, the damp earth breathing under your feet, and your heart pounds as you think of her, the woman who rewrote history. Nzinga is the story of a warrior queen who didn't just survive. She shaped a continent. If you had lived through Nzinga's wartime, you'd be grateful for the modern age, where there are no chains holding your fate, just a simple block to escape a toxic live stream. Tonight, as you sit in peace, in a world where voices of women and the oppressed are heard, take a quiet moment to give thanks that you didn't have to fight like Nzinga, the woman who made empires tremble and left an eternal legacy in every drumbeat of Africa. We've just wandered through history soaked in lust and intrigue, where Caligula, Wu Zetian, Louis XV, and their scandalous peers carved their names with power, pleasure, and tragedy. From the golden glow of Rome, where Caligula turned the palace into a theater of madness, to the opulent harems of Harun al-Rashid in the Persian sands, to Versailles, where Louis XV chased young women through clouds of perfume, they made Hollywood look tame. Then, from the shadows of Alamut, where the Hashashin whispered curses with daggers, past the stone dragon of the Great Wall echoing with the cries of laborers, to the forests of Ndongo, where Nzinga made empires shake, our journey has been a symphony of ambition and sacrifice. As the old proverb says, thrones built on desire crumble in darkness. If ancient Twitter existed, king of scandal, sultan of lust, and warrior queen would rule every timeline. So hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more historical drama. Comment below, which ruler shocked you the most? Caligula and his horse palace? Wu Zetian and her palace plots? Or Nzinga with her fearless spear? Share your thoughts and tell us, are you asleep yet? If not, what's keeping you awake? Relax your body. Take a deep breath. Let the moonlight and desert wind carry you into your dreams. See you next time on our next journey through history.